Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another epic round of entertaining racing action in the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, we're back once again ladies and gentlemen, another week has come around, it's Friday once more and we're here for round number 5 of the championship. But where exactly are we today to wrap up the first half of the season? Well, we are here in the US of A once again and we are in the state of Florida for the Daytona International Speedway. The self-proclaimed World Centre of Motorsport, the World Centre of Racing, it is part of the Triple Crown of Endurance Racing. And its core, a 3.56 mile long course with 12 corners. And on paper, at least, it sounds quite simple. But look underneath the surface and you'll find the complexity. First, this is a circuit that uses the majority of the venue's tri-oval, which is used for NASCAR events on an annual basis. And it combines it with a hairpin filled infield section to create a rather unique contrast. On the one hand, you've got the oval banking, where you can do a lot of fuel saving and you slipstream to your heart's content. On the other hand, you've got an infield section filled with those hairpins where you can make overtakes. So do you go for the overtaking moves? Do you try to make your way out through the field rather rapidly? Or do you sit behind your rivals? Do you exhibit patience and wait for the all-important pit stop where you may just be able to beat your rivals on the fuel gun and come out on top? Well, it's those who find the smart strategy and find the right balance who will come away victorious here today. And those who don't quite get it right, they may find themselves dumbfounded and finish just behind the leaders right at the finish line. Who's going to be the smarty pants and who's going to be the one who needs to go back to class? That's what we're here to find out today as we bring you all the racing action live from circuit side. Of course, you're catching this racing action on the one place you can catch it on a weekly basis, and that's on youtube.com, and search for SimRacing International SRI. And why not subscribe today so that we can stay up to date with all the latest action from our racing series. In the content if you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh and I should be covering all your racing action over the entirety of the season. And it's great to be back live from circuit side, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologise for round number 4 being a post-round broadcast, but hopefully it still lived up to the hype. Indeed, VAR was an absolute epic to cover, even post-round. We're here live today and we'll be live for the next couple of rounds at least as we carry on the story of the season. And without further ado, as we make our way into this round, let's bring you up to speed with the championship so far, and particularly what happened back at VIR in round number 4. For as we can see, we continue our way around the globe, and last time out on the 17th of April, we were at the Virginia International Raceway. In the US state of Virginia, it was an interesting round, but who exactly exhibited the most interest? Well, our winners definitely kept us interested because it was a victory in the Pro Class for Philip Ansell, making it 4 in a row, and based on his pole lap, you would think he was going to run away with it. He took pole position by almost 6 tenths ahead of Tom Bland, but the difference was when we did go green flag racing, he was put under immediate pressure from Bland going through the opening couple of laps. However, as the laps went on, we saw that Bland was soon drawn into a battle for second place, and one exciting battle it was between himself, Max Chambers, Wilson Liu and Aurimas Zilinskas, and in the end Ansell was able to gradually open up his lead and take his 4th win of the season in absolutely faultless and flawless fashion. But meanwhile in the interclass, that's where all the drama was, and so much so it even went to the steward's room after the race, whereby we got to see Oliver Kemp take the victory with an absolutely defiant battle versus Mark Halsbert. Now, how exactly did he get to that point, given the fact he started third in the class from qualifying almost 3.5 tenths behind the pole sitter of Mark Halsbert, and in the end they had Jordan Shamblin between the two of them. But in fact, no, it was not Jordan Shamblin between the two of them, it was David Payne between the two of them, and Jordan Shamblin, Kemp's teammate, was right behind, only a further one was 100th. When we went racing, well, overall places were made by Oliver Kemp, and meanwhile it looked as though it was looking quite safe for a 1-2 for the Kudu Academy drivers of Halsbert and Payne. But then suddenly there was an open lap incident, and it relegated Payne out of second place, and Kemp was able to move forward. And at that point onwards, well, we saw Oliver Kemp shadow Halsbert for the majority of the first stint, keeping within 5 seconds, but it was in the pit lane where suddenly everything got turned upside down. Oliver Kemp had saved so much fuel in his opening stint, they had a very short pit stop compared to Mark Halsbert, and in the end he was able to chase him down and jump ahead coming out the pit lane, and that's how he took the lead. But from that point onwards, well, the Kudu Academy driver was not too pleased with the Concord Motorsport driver, and they went battling all the way to the very end, and it was an absolutely close battle, no doubt about it, but it was a bit of a contentious moment in towards turn number 1, going into was the braking zone on lap 34. We got to see what was a cut across the front by Kemp across Halsbert, and in he was able to hold the position, but the contact between the two of them meant that suddenly Mark Halsbert was sent to the grass on the outside at Horseshoe Bend. He would recover to second place, but he wouldn't recover to be able to have an opportunity to try and poke and prod his way back to victory. And in the end it went to the steward's room afterwards, and well, a licence point has been delegated to Oliver Kemp, but the winner stood, and therefore Oliver Kemp taking his first win of the season, albeit elbows out racing, but goodness me, was it red hot and temperamental between the two of them. them, but that's what we do love to see. Two drivers wanting to go for it, and it means so much to them, so long as they keep it relatively clean. But from a dramatic duel for the Inter win, meanwhile, in the club class, we saw Mark Kent make it 2 wins in a row. He was beaten to class pole position by Cuda Motorsports' Jaden Innes, and you would have thought, given the fact the gap between the two was only 200ths on the grid, that we were going to see a battle between the two of them. However, not quite so. We saw an open lap incident for Jaden Innes at turns 5 and 6, which relegated him to the glass, and it promoted Kent into lead, and he just gradually raced away with the win. And he led home a 1-2 alongside his teammate Nathan Healy, who proudly made his way forward with an absolutely brilliant battle with James Bostock, where Bostock in the end got it all wrong at turn 1 coming out the pit lane, and he was able to take that second place, and therefore the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team finally landing at that 1-2 that escaped them at Bathurst, but they finally find it at VIR, and those are the headline stories with regards to your winners in our previous round. But here we are today then, it's the 24th of April. We're completing this month, and with it we complete the second half of the season of Daytona International Speedway. We're going to be taking on its road course, and you'll notice there on the very right hand side of the calendar, we've got a 1 hour race, but we have got rain on the forecast. The first of our rain affected rounds there. Wayne, goodness me, it's a Friday. You have to forgive me for that, ladies and gentlemen, but it's the first of our rain affected rounds, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what the weather's going to mean and how that could play even more in terms of a challenge to our drivers as they get ready to go racing. But as we look ahead to what will be the round after this one, we will go into May. On the 1st of May, it'll be round number 6 at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, our second endurance race round for 90 minutes of racing, and there we have a question mark. We're not quite sure what the conditions will be so far, but they will be announced very close to race day, and we could see even more wet weather there. But let's stay in the present, and let's now take a look at the championship standings after 4 rounds of racing. And as we can see, starting with the Pro Championship standings, it's Philip Ansell who leads for Cuda Motorsport, and right now, he is definitely looking unbeatable. Now, to be fair, he may be dominant in terms of the points he's accrued so far, but he's had to work very hard to make sure he's had those 4 wins on the bounce, and he has been challenged, where it being qualifying or in the race, but he has been the complete package where others have been slightly lacking in certain regards, and therefore he'll be keen to try and make sure he keeps it together, as he is a perfect combination right now as he heads into this round. But will he be perfect in the wet weather? Because, of course, a little bit of rain can always sprinkle some difficulty in. Wilson Liu for We Pay 300 Esports, he still sits in second. However, his run of second place has come to a bit of a halt. He took 3rd place last time out, but he enjoyed an absolutely brilliant battle back and forth with Max Chambers, Aurimas Zilinskas, and Pedro Luis da Silva, where Tom Bland's instant midway through the race relegated him out of that fight, and Luis da Silva picked up the pieces instead. And in the end, Liu was not quite able to make it into second place. Chambers proved slightly too quick to catch over the race distance, but still he was able to hold off the rest of his rivals and take that 3rd, and the Chinese driver holding on to 2nd. Meanwhile, in 3rd, we do have Joris Peters V, not in the grid last time out, and therefore he will consolidate VIR in round number 4 as his drop score for the season, because remember, our drivers do get 1 drop score round. It is not the season finale, however. They must attain to the season finale if they want to score the maximum points. That is undroppable, but anywhere between rounds 1 and 9, we have 1 drop score, inclusive of rounds 1 and 9 as well. But our GPX SimSport Xenon driver then sits in 3rd, and Mark Hutchinson creeps ever closer, but it was a 16th place finish last time out, not the result the L23M Esports driver wanted at all in his Ford GT. It all went very wrong, and he'll be hoping to right all those wrongs today. Pedro Luis da Silva taking his best result of the season so far, that 4th place for GPX SimSport Xenon, and furiously chasing down Wilson Liu in the closing stage of the race, but couldn't quite find a way in, but did well hold on to 4th in the end, and now on 105 points he's moved forward ahead of Tim Perry. Much like Hutchinson, for Perry, the teammate there of the L23M Esports driver, it was not a happy day in the office, indeed the team having a nightmare day at VIR, and he'll be looking for a much happier day today, as he falls to 6th and does have the best part of 8 points ahead of Rian Cassidy. Now, Cassidy, the Irish driver, spent a lot of time in the grass at VIR, unfortunately, and indeed a 12th place finish in the end was not what he wanted whatsoever, and we look forward to seeing whether we can turn things around today. Christophe Debars sits in 8th place there, and a non-finish for him after a cataclysmic incident onto the start-finish straight going on to lap number 2, and while we won't regale you with what exactly happened, then you have to tune into the broadcast from last week to see what happened, but unfortunately it does mean he finds himself right at the centre of what is a multitude of penalties that have come his way for licence points. He has picked up 2 drive-through penalties due to the incident he was in the heart of. It was very unfortunate for him, but understandably, in the heat of the moment, things went very wrong, and he has come away from that, and he will have to serve one of those today, and he can only serve the one, he cannot serve both, so he will carry forward another drive-through penalty going into next round at Spa-Francorchamps. So expect it's going to be an uphill battle for the Frenchman today, but we wish him all the best luck. He's on the grid here, and I'll tell you one thing, he's accepted what's happened, and he's moving forward, and everyone has been very supportive of him on the grid up and down the paddock. Davidas Lorenonis, meanwhile, sits in 9th place there for SRB with Lint Vega. He's on 90 points, only 1 behind, could have an opportunity to move into 8th today, perhaps even move into the top 5. He played his cards right, and then we do see Max Chambers at 2nd place place. His best result of the season so far for Concord Motorsports. He's now into 10th on 89 points and a little bit ahead of Tails Vosberg and Aurimas Zilinskas, who complete your top 12 in the pro class. But from them, we come to the interclass, and here we can see the story is all about Mark Kalsbear and Vidas Andruskevicius. Whereby right now, for the Kudu Academy driver, yes, he holds the lead, but he'll be wondering where exactly that win did go versus his rival of none other than Oliver Kemp last time out, and therefore that missing second win of the season has meant that the gap between himself and Andruskevicius is not quite as grand as he would have liked it to be. But still, he's got to keep in mind that right now he's looking a very strong driver out there, and he was beaten on fuel strategy last time out, and whilst it was a contentious battle between himself and Kemp, well, to be fair, when you're batting for the win at VIR, it's always going to be a little bit aggressive. Still, he holds on to lead then by 12 points over Andruskevicius, and the SRB driver from Lithuania right now with a full place last time out was not quite in the midst of the fight for the front, but he did find himself right in the midst of a very tight qualifying spread from 3rd through to 7th, and the places were separated by only 1600ths of a second. So in the race, he did have a good start. He was going in well in 3rd place, but some incidents and errors on laps 16 and 17 cost him places, and he did very well to recover to 4th place, but he could not quite catch up to John Shamblin, who was the last of your podium finishers. So, with a recovery drive for Andruskevicius, there was also one for Shamblin, but before we do come to Shamblin in 4th place, let's come to our 3rd place man, Jan Lintz, who went very much under the radar last time out for the Gazix Racing team. It was not a happy round for him, and unlike Andruskevicius, he found himself right in the thick of a very tight qualifying pack for 3rd through to 7th in the interclass, but the difference was that he was involved in the major end of lap 1 incident, which forced him to the very back of the field, and a further incident on lap number 2 prevented him from making a full recovery drive, and therefore he needs to bounce back today, does the Gazix Racing team drive from Germany. John Shamblin sits in 4th place then for Concord Motorsport, and now 2 3rd places and a win. He is definitely building some momentum. He's only 9 points over the top 3, and in turn he is 25 points ahead of Quanley 2, who missed the last round but is back today, and we're very much looking forward to seeing the WePay 300 Esports give it all he's got if he wants to chase down the top 3. David Payne, well, it was a very unfortunate day for him after the open lap incident relegated him out of a prime opportunity for a podium. That first podium is being made to wait a little bit longer for the Kudu Academy driver, but can he finally do it at the 5th time of asking? We'll have to wait and see. He's on 104 points, one of the top 5, but in turn only 3 ahead of Flavien Tieffre, another non-finish for the Valent Racing team driver, and right now the hits keep on coming, they're not positive ones, and he needs to turn his luck around. From the Frenchman, it's a further point to Oliver Kemp, whose first win of the season last time out has now moved him into the 8th place, and he'll be buoyant about that, and he'll be trying to make it another win today if he can, and he's ahead of Kevin Smith there for Verano Esports with Edge Overlays on 89 points, who put together a good recovery drive of his own after the open lap incident to move into 6th, and then we did see Victor Chamorro complete the top 10 there in terms of standings, and indeed he was 5th place in the race, and will the Spaniard for the Gnosis Esports privateer outfit, he did a brilliant job in the race, fighting hard, although he found himself towards the very back of the field towards the very start, but he made his way upwards very rapidly, and will always keep your eyes out for the Corvette driver. Mikhail Abasek sits in a length after a non-finish at VIR, and Sebastian Schwerdfeger completes your top 12. Indeed, at one point he was chasing the podium at VIR, but it all went so very wrong. But then coming to the club standings, last but by no means least, and here we see James Bostock. He missed Bathurst, but he returns to racing last time out, and whilst he may have thrown away a 2nd place finish, he definitely took a 3rd, and he is your championship leader. The GPXs were on extra ahead of the sister team driver from Vertex of Gareth Newton, and Newton's run a 2nd place finish has come to an abrupt halt, with a 4th place finish last time out, but still solid points, and he knows that hard work is definitely paying off. And we see John Becker sat in 3rd for Valent Racing Team, and right now another 7th place finish, and his story really was a difficult start today in qualifying with only 9th place in qualifying, and then when he fell to the very back of the field in the open lap, he fought his way through to that 7th place despite a couple of close calls as the race went on, and he needs to get back on top of his qualifying points as they are becoming his Achilles heel, but can the Dutchman do so today? Dwayne Hoffman in 4th place at only 2 points off of the top 3, and the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver coming here with another complete package in the BMW M8 once again, and definitely proven to be one of those drivers you never count out, although VR tried to tap him out, given the fact he finished just at the very back end of the top 10. Nathan Healy, well, the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver there now with a 3rd and now a 2nd. You would imagine that the theory is going to be he's going to take the win today if he continues the mathematical progression, and definitely he was very happy of that 2nd place finish last time out. Indeed, the man who joins him now, only 5 points behind in 6th place, is his 3rd teammate, and that is Mark Kent. And well, back-to-back victories for the British driver. Can he potentially now make it 3 in a row and launch his way into that top 3? Gianluca Rosbo for DEVE Motorsport, he was right in the thick of the fighting once again at VIR, but could only manage a 11th place in the end, where a couple of late incidents cost him dear, but the Italian is ahead of Marcus Clayton by 8 points over Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays, and then we do see from Clayton, who completed the top 10 at VIR, Mikel Salcuni, the Italian driver who enjoyed plenty of battling with Clayton and Rosbo. We managed to achieve an 8th place in the end, fight his way forward for Rhino Esports, head of Jaden Innes, the man who could have perhaps taken the win at VIR if it was not for that open lap incident, and it cost him everything, and he was only able to make his way forward to just finish outside the top 5 by a sliver, but perhaps today will be a better day. He completes the top 10, the Canadian, 8 points ahead of Brian Beardsworth, and then we do see Matthew Massey completing a top 12, and for Matthew Massey, some big surprise out there. He had a lot of pace, but he did have to retire from the race due to a technical issue with the car when it was going so well for his first top 5 of the season, but hopefully won't see him have to retire today. And then we come to the Teams Championship last, but by no means least, and here we can see right now it's Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, who are charging away at the very top of the field and holding on to that control with that 1-2 for the teaming club. I mean, they've increased the lead and they are on a roll. Kud Academy, meanwhile, sit in second place, and the Payne and Carlsberg combination proving effective, but it was a missed opportunity for a 1-2 in the interclass due to the multitude of incidents they were involved in over the race distance, and therefore they need to come back a little bit stronger today, because their sister team, Kud Motorsport, are closing the distance and move from 4th to 3rd, and then are starting to find their rhythm, not just because Ansell's taking the wins in Pro, but also the fact they are scoring the points in with Jaden Innes having that difficulty at the start of the club race. He knows if he can keep it together, he too will be able to contribute to their fashion. Concord Motorsport sit in 4th behind at 20 points adrift, and they continue to push forward as well. They've jumped all the way from 9th to 4th with a double podium in the interclass for Kemp and Shamblin. Kemp your winner, of course, and 3rd to Shamblin, and Max Chambers also pushing on hard there and taking his own podium in the Pro class. So right now, the trio looking very strong, and then 19 points ahead of Valent Racing Team, who've had to park the bus a little bit, given the fact they've fallen from 3rd to 5th. SRB sit in 6th place there. The Taos Vosberg and Fidus Andruskevicius combination, 247 points. They're not far outside the top 5, but they've got the close company of GPX Simsport Xenon and Vertex. And then we do see We Pay 300 Racing, just said GPX Simsport Onyx, completing your top 10. It's still very tight in the Teams Championship, however, and outside the top 10, only what is 11 points off. It is Altitude Frame Esports, who've had a huge fall down the order from 5th to 11th, but they'll be looking to bounce back today and break their way back into that top 10. We can assure you that. But very quickly then, let's tell you a little bit about our host circuit for today. It is the Daytona International Speedway. The road course plays host, located in the city of Daytona Beach in the Volusia County of the US state of Florida. 3.56 miles in length or 5.72 kilometers, depending on your preference of units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 12 in total. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely brilliant track mats included within it. Now, this is a relatively flat circuit. You exclude what is the banking of the oval sections, and therefore for our drivers, they'll find as they take on the best part of 85% of the oval banking, plus also the hairpin field infield section. They're going to definitely need to keep it together if they want to be able to come away victorious here, because they roar the way into turn 1. It's going to be a very long and late apex open left-hander where they'll come down to second gear before they power the way through the chicane at turns 2 and 3 and hard onto the brakes into the horseshoe hairpin at turn number 4. After that, it's a sprint through the curb, and where's the curve, I should say, at turn number 5, and in towards turn number 6 they'll go for the second hairpin, and then they'll come back on themselves once more for a 90-degree left-hander at turn number 7 to complete the infield and make the way onto the oval banking. Flat out they'll go for the banking of 8 and into the bus stop chicane at turns 9, 10, 11. Many say we should refer to it as Le Mans, but it stays bus stop in the minds of many, including myself. And as they then make the way out, it'll be flat out all the way through the banking at turn number 12 to complete lap and do it all over again. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to your circuit side pictures and see who exactly is looking good in qualifying. Well, right now, in a mixture of conditions, and indeed, this is going to be one of the big things that throws up a conundrum for our drivers today, because we do have our first wet weather race, and the rain, well, it did arrive in practice, and right now we've got a drying circuit here in qualifying, and you can see there in the timing tower, we've got a mixture of dryers on wet and dry tyres, so it's going to be about who exactly is going to be on the right compound at the right time to maximise their qualifying laps. And it does seem as though this circuit is drying enough to really want the slick tyre. You can see that very prominent dry line as Isaac Faber, the man who's the focus of our camera's attention right now, is currently your provisional pole sitter by 84 thousandths over his teammate, who's here, of Philip Ansell. And then we do have Mark Hutchinson, another pro driver, completing at the top 3 right now, and the Altitude Frame Esports driver, well, he's coming out firing strong as he makes his way on through turn number 6 there in the Ford GT. And we can always trust Hutchinson to give it a good go, given the fact he does love this car. And right now, well, he's one of a limited number of drivers in the Ford GT, but he'll be looking to try and chase success today. Now, speaking of success, we do have a bit of a different balance of performance here, and this could lead to changes in success for certain drivers. We have seen a minor adjustment earlier on in the week, and that adjustment was made to the balance of performance in the most recent iRacing patch that was made on Wednesday, the 22nd of April. So therefore, it's going to be the first exposure for our drivers, in the league conditions at least, to the new balance of performance, and we are hearing that the balance of performance has aimed to tame the Porsche 911 RSR to bring it back in a little bit, because it was a little bit too strong, and also we have seen some adjustments to the likes of the BMW BMW, whose fuel efficiency has been slightly reduced in the favour, however, the car having a bit more downforce on it. We've also seen the Ferrari get a really big boost from what we understand as Tim Perry brings his Ferrari today, so therefore he'll be hoping that this could really work out for him. In fact, he switched to the Ferrari there in solidarity, I believe, with the other Ferrari drivers, particularly Max Wheeler, who made his switch from the BMW to the Ferrari, and we also do have Mikhail Abasek in the Ferrari as well. So we do have a couple more Ferrari drivers out there. They've all decided to band together to make what is the Scuderia informal team, albeit they do race at their own respective teams, but it's good to see a few Ferraris out there. But we've also seen some enhancements to the Corvette and also to our other machine of none other, if it does escape my mind. In fact, I think I've covered the ball already, and therefore I'm getting ahead of myself, ladies and gentlemen. But the key points being we have seen a considerable adjustment to the Porsche, or a nerf, if you will, and we have seen a slight micro nerf to the BMW, but it has gained some more downforce, and we've seen the Ferrari being given a boost. The Corvette's been given a slight buff, and so has the Ford. But how it all plays together, we'll have to wait and see. They're very minor adjustments when it comes to weight, fuel efficiency, engine output, and also with regards to downforce on the cars. So therefore, it is going to be into fine details, apart from the Porsche. So therefore, I would expect that most of our drivers out there will not notice too much until they really go green flag racing. But we need to say a big hello to a good number of you in the YouTube chat, including none other than Dexterous Motorsports Rob, or DXT Rob there, who says, I've got my umbrella ready for this one. And well, indeed, very happy to see you tuned in, Rob, and I hope you're doing well. As we do look to Sammy Alex, who's doing very well at the moment in qualifying, currently the inter-provisional pole sitter with 7th overall, and that's very impressive there in the Porsche 911 RSR. He's finding the time, as Isaac Fairwell's going even quicker on the slick tyre, so I think we are into the slicks now. Alex is out there on the wet tyre, so I wonder what he'd be able to do if he put a set of slicks on that Porsche. I'm sure we'll find out very soon with 10 minutes to go. We also do say hello there to Kitty's Mad, who says good evening, and I'm doing very well, thank you, Kitties. I hope you're doing well as well, and we'll appreciate your comment with regards to my work at Cadwell Park and saying it looked quite interesting there. Indeed, it was a fantastic time away, but of course I did massively miss covering all the races of the VIR live last week here in the GTE Championship, and we're very happy to be back live today, and I hope you're all okay, and I can see you wishing the Verano Esports drive the best of luck for tonight. We also do say hello there to Phillips_91. I'm doing very well, thank you, Phillips. I hope you're doing well as well, and you sound very cheerful for a Friday, which is fantastic, because of course the weekend is just around the corner, so it's always a good way to start the weekend off with some absolutely brilliant Grand Touring endurance car racing action. We also do say hello to Craig Tillotson, or CTL at 34, who says good luck to the Rhino boys tonight. And I do believe Craig not quite able to make the grid for the remainder of this season, unless I'm mistaken. I don't see him on the entry list here today. And we also do say hello there to Welsh Boy 2012, who says good luck full tilt. So we do have quite a few of you there. And if you're sat there right now, you're feeling a little bit shy, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi if you've got access to the YouTube chat, because we don't bite here at SimRacing International. The only biting you will see, and you'll definitely see it in these GT cars, is when somebody locks up the brakes. They'll bite on the brakes and they will go straight on there, and that's what the GTs are known for, of course, and the fact they have no ABS, no anti-lock braking system. These cars do have traction control, but it's the key difference between them and the modern day GT3 that replaced them is in the fact they do not have ABS systems, and that made them just that little bit more challenging to drive for the gentleman driver. But as we do see Harvey Wills cheering on at Max Wheeler, where is exactly Max at the moment? Well, he's currently very close to Tim Perry. He's currently running in 9th overall, and there he is in the three-wheeler racing at Ferrari as he makes his way on around. And well, he's still got the Audi logo on the side of it. Well, I do love the fact that he maintains the Audi powered car on the side of it no matter what car he goes to, and that's always a little bit of a trope there with Max Wheeler, because he's a massive Audi fan, it should be pointed out. I do believe his daily is an Audi as well, although it escapes me what he drives his daily as an Audi, but I do believe it's quite a heavy performance car. Indeed, I do believe it's in the RS category, or at least the S category when it comes to cars, and as he makes his way on through, well, right now roaring his way through the bus stop chicane, or hopping and skipping his way through there, and right now looking quite quick out there. But we were making our way down through the order. Sammy Alex, of course, your inter-provisional pole sitter at the moment, and Victor Shimaro, well, he is out of the car in the pit lane. He's currently the second fastest of your inter drivers in 12th overall, and then we do have Jan Lintz going on to a new flying lap. He's just completed an out lap. Currently in his Corvette, looking quite quick for third in class. He was looking a little bit quicker earlier on, but it does seem as though what he's decided to do now is go back out there once again on a new set of slicks and see what he can do this time round. Meanwhile, in the club class, we do have Mark Kent, who's currently the fastest out there. However, compared to what was the battle for pole position at VIR, which was between himself and Jaden Innes, it's a very different rival with him today, and that is Matthew Massey. You can see here the Spectra Racing driver in his Porsche 911 RSR, not too far off of Kent. The gap between the two of them currently see what is almost 2 tenths. It's a bit closer compared to the Innes-Kemp battle at VIR, and Jaden Innes is down in 3rd place, the class in 28th overall, and he is the best part of a further half a second away. But speaking of Jaden, here he is making his way out the pit lane for Cuda Motorsport. We see one driver getting it very wrong. That's Christophe Debar, who's parked up on the grass. In fact, I don't think that's Christophe Debar. I think that is one of your Inox Motorsport cars taking a bit of a balls. And what we do see, that driver just come out the pit lane, going a bit wide. And well, this is very difficult here because he's on a slick tyre, but he goes to a wet patch of surface to obey the blue flags, and he now rejoins us in this. It's not easy. And that's one of the things here with regards to this drying circuit. Yes, the circuit is drying at the moment, but it's only drying in the places where drivers are driving on the racing line right now that is forming. As we do see a huge improvement there from Leopet Esports. His name now, it jumps to the top. And well, the BMW M8 driver here, he might have cracked the code with regards to mastering the conditions, but not like that when he gets it wrong coming out of turn number 1 into the barrier. Mark Hutchinson now goes the fastest of everybody. Well, this circuit is definitely coming alive, and with 6 minutes to go here, the transition from wet to dry is definitely very noticeable. As Vian Casti now jumps up the 3rd place. There's a car going to spin off the road there on what was the background of the pitch, and it's going to rejoin. That's why the Concord Motorsports cars come back on. That's Oliver Kemp. So Kemp, they're going for a spin, going all around, and we're doing his best Dead or Alive impression, if you know the song, and will now make his way back onto the circuit. But as he does so, all these drivers definitely keeping it nice and clean together as we look back to Mark Calsbear, and right now the Inter-Championship leader in 19th place overall, 6th in class, but I suspect he's trying to cook up an even quicker lap. And the same for Philip Ansell, the Championship leader in Pro, already down in 8th place overall, but here he comes towards the timing line. He's been better in the middle sector compared to his previous best. What about his final sector? It's a personal best out there as well, and he does not find the time initially, but he's going to go once again. 5 minutes plus overtime to go, and right now this could all chop and change. Matthew Massey, by the way, well, he may be trimming the grass as he has a bit of a moment with the Rolex board there, but he is currently your visual poster to in club. He's jumped all the way up to 11th place, and I suspect that's been aided by the slick tyre, then him absolutely nailing the lap. But Mark Hutchinson makes his way onwards, and as he does so, well, right now your 391 drivers up there. Mark Calsbear jumps up to 2nd place, and well, we thought something was coming. He was cooking, and he's cooked it very nicely at 45.899. You could say that's well done, as he now comes through turn number 1 in towards turns 2 and 3. And well, we are going to ride on board of our drivers for a flying lap, and it is going to be Tim Perry who takes us around for a flying lap of the Daytona road course as it's gradually drying. So in towards turn number 1, Trowell breaking his way down here on the slick tyre, taking it nice and smooth. It's all about gentle throttle application here as he exits the opening corner now through the chicane. Right into left he goes, completely flat out, and now get ready to bring the car to the left-hand side, although car rejoins the racing line. But it won't be too close there as Perry backs off in towards turn number 4, and actually on the brakes, about 170 meters from corner apex, and now full throttle as he makes his way out of the hairpin. The car steps aside, and Perry here will take a little bit of water on the right-hand side tyres, but in towards turn 5, it'll be a lift off the throttle as he chucks the car in. He won't have all the grip he needs. Onto the brakes, about 170 meters from corner apex in towards turn number 6, as he makes his way through the right-hander right now, and onwards he'll go up towards what will be turn number 7. Now coming over to the right side, clear right ahead of him now. He'll be doing this all of his own steam, and in towards the left hand at 90-degree corner he goes, bouncing over the road surface transition there. Can always upset a car on the inside, and now make his way onto the banking. Flat out at this point, keep it nice and low, and just very gentle steering application here. You do not want to scrub off any speed if you can help it. As he makes his way along the oval banking, you can see that very prominent dry line that's gradually rising as the sun comes out, and now getting ready to bring the car to the right hand side for the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. Looking at the boards, it will be the 2-board he brakes at, so that'll be about 150 yards from the braking zone, and going all the way through, in fact 150 yards from the corner we should say, and now making his way through the chicane, nice and smooth through there, bouncing over the curbs which were adjusted at the start of this year, and now making his way all the way around through turn number 12, and on towards the timeline he goes. And how is this going to be for Tim Perry? What is it going to be in terms of how he's done so far? He's on a personal best all the way around the lap. He's down in 19th place. More drivers are continuing to improve. So I think this is going to be a quick lap as he maxed out the best part there of 178 miles an hour as he crosses the timeline. 179 at line. It puts him in 7th place there in his Ferrari at 46.048. A good lap there from Perry, but still more time to be found. Indeed, all the drivers here pushing for that time as much as they can, as Pedro Luis da Silva now catapults himself up to 5th place, and we'll be very happy with that. And as he does so, well, we do see Mark Calsbear and John Shamblin. They are really occupying the top spots right now in the interclass. And with Shamblin after that infamous win at Bathurst, which really got the crowd going crazy. He's one of the fan favourites out there, the Concord Motorsports driver. And I do believe it representing military veterans as well, which is always a huge bonus. As he makes his way on down right now and ensure many will appreciate his service. He goes 2nd overall on a 44.913. Definitely gives us a good service with that one. And Ryan Cassidy is back to the very top. And right now as he comes on through, the Endurotech driver makes his way very sideways there, losing the rear of the car. And as he does so, well, now he's been parts there. He will be able to get it turned around. Is he going to have time to go on to another lap after this one? Or is that going to be it? Has he just thrown away an opportunity to try and improve even more as Christian Ablasser moves up to 10th, but Jan Lynch jumps up to 4th place. We've got more cars coming out the pit lane here, and I think they're all trying to test the conditions, but they're running out of time, and a lot of drivers are leaving it late, but who's perhaps leaving it way too late? Well, one of the biggest surprises of them all right now, John Becker all the way down in 46th. And, well, the man who's currently 3rd in the club championship, I think he's on an outlap. He's going to give it one shot, and, well, that's brave to do so, but to be fair, perhaps that's what he's going to need. And we said at the start of this broadcast, he needs to get on top of the qualifying points. They are what are holding him back, and right now this is going to hold him back if he doesn't put this together. Mikhail Abasek's now into 6th place. Oliver Granier has moved up into 16th place, the 47.180. Improvements coming left, right, and centre from all these drivers. Gianluca Rospo just in front of Becker, and, well, he makes one around. A minute left to go, so they will just about get onto another lap. As Philip Ansell now goes on to his final lap, and Becker goes round. That's near the picture. Becker gets it wrong. Slides one way, slides the other way. He's lost the grip there, lost the traction, and now pointing it uphill on the oval banking. Frustration building, and the car's going to gradually roll down. He will be able to get himself extracted there, but I don't think he's going to have enough time at this point. You can see he's struggling for the rear traction grip as he makes way up the banking. And, well, there's going to be other cars coming through in due time shortly, but he's going to drop below the yellow line in time to make sure he does not cause an incident. And good awareness for him there. But meanwhile, John Shamlin comes towards the line. He's going the fastest of everybody in the penultimate sector, makes way to line in a double draft as well, the 2 Corvette, and he switches between them. That's Jan Lintz who's just got in front of, and he's got the draft there of none other than what is Victor Shimaro, but he does not improve his position. He does improve his lap, however. That's a 44.91. Isaac Fairweather now goes the fastest of everybody in the 318. He's going to put himself on pole by the best part of 3 tenths there, exactly over Ryan Cassidy. 9 seconds left to go, multiple cars off the road. Everyone's improving. Wilson Liu jumps up to 5th place, and the WePay 300 Esports driver back with a bang today. I'm very happy to make sure that he can get himself right up there. And meanwhile, we do have Max Chambers doing very well as he moves onwards, and he does seem as though he's 34th at the moment. His last lap, however, this is going to be a personal best. It's going to be a huge personal best as he makes his way towards the line. He's not purple anywhere, but he's definitely going green across the board. What's it going to be for Chambers? It's 8th place at least then, a 44.890, or at most we should say. Now, will he be relegated down? Guy Hitchler comes across the line. He only improves to 10th in the end as he decides to cool it down. Philip Ansell, meanwhile, he heads his way towards the timeline. Here he comes. And will your championship leader be able to take pole position in again here today? Or will it be the first time we see him off of pole? Will he cross the line? The answer is going to be... It's pole position for Philip Ansell, provisionally a 43.773, 2.5 tenths quicker than anybody else. Can anybody else steal it away? Well, Davidas Lorinonis finds 3rd down at 44.146, an impressive lap from Lorinonis. And, well, he's got to now cool on down. He can't go any faster, or at least not legally, as Pedro Luis da Silva. Does he find any more time? No, he does not. We're almost at the end then. And, well, we've got Oliver Kemp coming around right now. We've also got David Payne making his way on around. They're still trying to find that time. We have got them on valid laps here. Who have we got before them? Have we got anybody else about across the line? We do have Mikhail Salkuni. He's crossed the line. He has not improved. He stays 44th, 12th in the club class. But Payne heading around and hoping this is going to be quicker. Marcus Clayton following him there. But as we do look back to David Payne, here he comes towards the timing line. And what does the Coup Do Academy driver do? As we see Oliver Kemp has moved up to 16th. Payne crossed the line. He goes to 33rd. He goes to 23rd. So he gains 10 places. But it's not enough there to get him right towards the front of the interclass. It seems though John Shamlin may have got it right. Meanwhile, Marcus Clayton crossed the line. He does not improve. And Philip Ansell, meanwhile, well, I do believe here he's making his way around, but this will not be a valid lap unless I'm mistaken. Isaac Fairweather, he's going to be in the pit lane, so he's not going to improve either. As we do look to the scenic view there for a brief moment, we apologise for that. But Ansell right now, I think, putting together an even quicker lap. Not that he needs to, and not that he'll be allowed to. This is his cool-down lap. So he will take pole position overall, and in the pro class, by 2.5 tenths, our race team out of Isaac Fairweather. It's going to feel like Bathurst all over again. However, they do have the conundrum of Davidas Lorinonis starting 3rd, and many of you may remember, of course, at Bathurst, it all got very scrappy between Fairweather and Lorinonis, if my memory serves me correctly, on the open lap in towards turn number 2. But we'll see more of that today as Philip Ansell there completely makes a mess of coming into the pit lane. That won't invalidate his pole time, but he definitely there will need to remember that he can't afford to do that when we do go racing. As the circuit does cool on down, when it's going to be Ansell, Fairweather, Lauren and Cassidy on your front two rows, with Christophe de Bar in 5th place there, but an impressive qualifying performance from him, particularly as he's got to offset what will be a drive-through penalty here today. In the interclass on pole, it's going to be Jordan Shamblin starting 11th, and he does have the best part of 4th place between himself and Jan Lintz, and then we will see a little bit further back there, well, I didn't quite catch it, but there's quite a tight spread there in the interclass for what is your top 5, and well, we will also see what is a bit of a push there in the club category. But in the end, well, what a qualifying session we've had, ladies and gentlemen. And well, we do say hello to a few more of you there in the YouTube chat, including the Verano eSport account that's wishing the best luck to the Verano drivers today. And well, we do have Andrea Marchetti, who says, where is Gianluca Rospo? And well, the good news is we do have him out there at the circuit right now. And well, we will bring you some camera footage of him shortly, as we are now into the 5-minute warm-up period. Marcus Clayton just about to make his way out of the pit lane, potentially. I think a few of our drivers here just experimenting with making the way out. So what exactly is the weather forecast for today? I hear you ask. Well, we are going to just bring you up to speed with regards to the weather forecast. We can't show it on screen, but we can oratory it to you. We did have some light rain in the early stages of the practice session, which has made it a circuit that's gradually been going from wet to dry, and we've seen that towards the end of qualifying. But now the sun's been out, we're going to see the sun out in the warm-up period, and at least for the very start of the race, but our clouds and light rain are going to arrive approximately somewhere in the region of around about 5 to 10 minutes into the race, and we're only going to have about 10 to 15 minutes of light rain, after which we will have clear skies. So it means the race is going to start dry, the wet weather is going to arrive, and there is going to be a period most likely where you'll need to be on the wet tyre or somehow survive on the slick tyre, and then there will be a dry period towards the end of the race where we will see the circuit get drier once again, much like in qualifying. So we are really going to see our drivers today put on their toes as to when's the right time, if it's needed, to transition from the slick tyre to the wet tyre and vice versa. So that's going to be the big conundrum here. We definitely do have the weather smiths here in the SimRacing International community working very hard in order to make sure we enjoy these wet weather conditions, which of course only available to the GT class on iRacing as the 2026 Season 2 update, where these cars now do have what is the wet compound tyre and also a dry compound tyre, and we're very pleased with that. As all our drivers heading around. It's a prime opportunity, of course, if you're sat there right now thinking that you're itching to go to the bathroom, alternatively get yourself a top of a liquid refreshment or go grab yourself some snacks. We'll do so because we've got 3 minutes to go before we do head to the grid for our one and only race today. As we do get ready for that, another thing, and this is some information, as we do look to Gianluca Rospo making his way on around, starting from towards the back of the field today in the 1-2-2. We look forward to him with the Deep Motorsport drive can move forward and take another top 10 in the club class. He's definitely been fighting for top 10 so far. One other thing I've been informed, a little birdie down in the pit lane while speaking to a couple of the teams down there, and I won't describe who exactly because this may be a bit of information they do not want shared publicly in terms of who knows what, but we're going to tell you what we now know. Unlike the GT3 category on iRacing, these cars cannot have their wings nor their roll bars, their anti-roll bars, the ARB adjusted in the pit lane once they are racing. So unlike GT3s, you cannot tweak the rear wing or the roll bars when you come into the pits. Now, why is that important, I hear you ask? Well, the importance of it is when you're in wet weather conditions, you normally want more rear wing and you want a car that normally has a lot more understeer in it by default because you want better grip and traction in the wet weather conditions. When you've got a drier circuit, particularly here at Daytona, where this is a minimum downforce circuit typically in the dry, you want as less rear wing as possible, and also you want to open up those anti-roll bars a little bit. You want a car that's a bit more flexible through the corners, but the fact that teams cannot adjust those items on the fly in the pit lane once we go racing means that right now everyone's got to think over these 5 minutes, how do they set the car up? Do they set it up with a wet weather setup? Do they set it with a dry weather setup? Or do they go for a balanced compromise somewhere in between? That's going to make this a very challenging race, and that's why these wet weather conditions, these mixed conditions, are definitely going to shake it up, because there's no right way potentially to set the car up, at least to match every condition. You've got to invest in the right setup to fancy yourself as a driver, but also to gauge where you want to make up that race time. Do you make it in the dry, or do you make it in the wet? And how dry will the circuit be towards the end once we've had the rain midway through the race? Well, all that and more we're about to find out, because we're not too far away from going green flag racing. As we do get ready, we're going to heed our own advice with regards to getting some liquid refreshment. I'm just going to take a quick gulp of water, if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, so that way I'm not parched midway through the race. As our drivers make the way on towards what will be the race, well, of course, we see some comments there from a number of you in the YouTube chat, and indeed, Runner Esports saying there that wet side into turn 1 from the start is going to be interesting, and well, Real Bottle Job there saying, well, that might be a bit of a slight oversight. Of course, we did our best there to try and engage the conditions, to try and make sure everyone could safely go into the opening corners, but I'm sure our drivers will be ready for it, and well, we look forward to seeing exactly how they will get on, and there's always the fault. Will drivers start on wet with the rain due to arrive around 10 minutes into the race? Well, for all that and more, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It is time to make our way to the grid for our first wet weather race of the SimRacing International GTE Championship. You're tuning in to Season 2 as brought to you on iRacing, and here we are in round number 5 at Daytona International Speedway. But who's going to be the winner? Let's find out as we head to the grid. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this held they'll line up for one and only 60-minute race. It is for Ansell, who takes pole position there for Cuda Motorsport in the Pro category, and overall he's joined on the front row of the grid by his teammate of none other than Isaac Fairweather. On row at number 2, it's Davidas Lorenonis for SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega and Rian Casti for Team Endurotech. We then do have on row 3, Christophe Dubar for Live Sim Race ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva for GPX SimSport Xenon, with row 4 going to Wilson Liu for We Pay for 100 Esports, ahead of Christian Ablas for the Gazix Racing Team. Now it'll be Max Chambers starting 9th there for Concord Motorsport ahead of Tim Perry for Altitude 3M Esports, who switched to the Ferrari, and we look forward to seeing how that will get on today. Now, 11th place, you'll have your Interpol sitter, Jordan Shamlin for Concord Motorsport, and he'll be pleased as punch with that pole position, but now he knows he's got to try and deliver the goods and pick up his second win of the season. Renee Mao for Leopard Esports at 1 point on provisional pole, but lost out towards the end, and the Austrian driver right now will be keen to move forward in his BMW M8, head of Chad Henderson for Turbo Rennsport, who starts off your 7th row. He is joined by the second Leopard Esports car of Kai Hitchler, and then we do see Janlin starting in 15th place, second of your Inter-Drives for Gazix Racing Team, head of Olivia Garnier for Live Sim Racing, who completes the Inter-Top 3. Oliver Kemp starts in 17th ahead of Mikhail Abasek, with Max Wheeler 19th for Freewheeler Racing ahead of Mark Hutchinson. And then outside of the top 20, Mark Halsberg starts in 21st, trying to move forward as quick as he can, ahead of Kevin Smith. On row number 11, it's going to be row number 12, I should say. It's David Payne ahead of Aurimas Zilinskas, with Matthew Massey taking his first club pole position of the season for Spectre Racing, just ahead of Bruno Key by the best part of 2 tenths. Behind the We Pay 300 Esports drawing 27th, it's Sammy Alex and Ivan Hauptka, and then we do see Clyde Vella and John Ludbrook completing your top 30. Outside the top 30 in 31st place, it's going to be a Victor Chamara, the Spaniard, who we know can be very talented in these changeable conditions. Keep your eyes out for him. He didn't get it right in qualifying, but he may just get it right in the race. And Benjamin Massey will join him on the 16th row grid in 32nd place. Vinus Andruskevicius starts 33rd ahead of Mark Kent for FTVM, and he'll be joined by his teammate Dwayne Hoffman just behind in 35th. Jaden Ennis is 36th ahead of Nathan Healy, and then we'll see Sebastian Schwertweger, Gareth Newton, and Quanley 2 complete your top 40. Outside the top 40 in 41st place, it is going to be Andrew Fellows ahead of Brian Beardsworth on row 21, with row 22 consisting of Max Dean and Mikhail Stalkuni. We then do have Marcus Clayton, his teammate, just behind in 45th place of Verona Esports Edge Overlays, ahead of Gianluca Rospo starts 46th, and behind the Deep Motorsport driver, it'll be John Becker and Flavien Tieffri, the Valent Racing Team drivers, and then it will be on the 25th and final row of the grid, Gavin Corby and Taus Vosberg, and that will be your grid, ladies and gents, because we do go green flag racing, and as we do, the field is go, go, go as they roar the way down towards turn 1. But as they do, everyone tiptoeing the way in towards the opening corners, and they make the way around right now. And Philip Ansell will come through immediately there and looking absolutely clean. But as they roll the way up towards what will be turn number 3, well, we're already green, and here they go in towards the first heavy braking zone, and well, we can see there plenty of battles behind as the drivers come through that right-hander at turn number 4, and as they do, Wilson Liu there fighting side by side with Pedro Luis da Silva, but going onwards towards what will be the next braking zone. Well, right now it's going to be a bit of a scramble there as everyone seems to have made it through the first few corners safely. A couple of cars going wide. Oh, that goes very sideways there. Who's that being ejected? That's Jaden. It is being collected again. It's happened all over once again with Jaden Innes, and Clyde Vella just behind. Well, goes to the grass there, but takes evasive action. But the car behind him, not quite sure. I think that was Matthew Massey. I think that's your club leader who's had it go wrong for Spectre Racing. And the 189 driver here just trying to bring himself back onto the road very carefully. But Christophe Dubois right now, the man who does have a drive-through penalty to serve at some point in this race. Well, he's battling side by side with Wilson Liu, but going high here. He's on the wet tyre, so he's going to have to try and find those wet patches as he heads on the way down towards the bus stop chicane. But you can see there, by going high, he's going to lose a lot of speed here on the banking down towards the backstretch, as that's going to be Luis da Silva and also Chambers cutting on through, but now in towards that braking zone for what will be the bus stop chicane. Well, the go nose to tail here, but Dubois right now just trying to hold on with those wet tyres until the wet weather arrives. He's made a gamble. We'll have to wait and see if it makes it stick as Max Chambers goes very sideways there, losing it through the bus stop, and I suspect just hitting a curb too high and taking some water onto the tyres, and those slick tyres will not offer any grip as he now gets himself up to speed, but rejoins there, and everyone just fashions their way around him. Chad Henson battling side by side with Kai Hitchler as they couple through, and as they do, will make the way up towards will be the end of the open lap. Christophe Debar comes into the pit lane for his drive-through penalty, so he gets it out the way straight away, which he's allowed to do so. After completing a lap, he is allowed to do it. But meanwhile, as we do look to Philip Ansell, your leader right now, and well, as we do have Sammy Alex leaving the pit lane, that's a bit of an error there on the time tower, ladies and gents, but he is a lap down at the moment. You'll see that happen very shortly. Ansell leads as Isaac Fairwell and Douglas Lorenonis complete your top three with the SRB Motorsport by Linz Vega driver going on the attack once more. But as he tries to do so, well, this field right now definitely extended already. Mark Kent has somehow found his way into the lead of the club class. We're definitely going to have to get a replay of that, and also a replay of the race stocks. We didn't quite catch it all as it went green flag racing, and Nathan Healy battling here with Gianluca Rospo, and Rospo's had a brilliant start to this race. The Deep Motorsport driver's made his way all the way up from 14th in club up to second, but he's got to be careful the next to the hairpin. He's on slick tyres versus the wet weather tyres of Nathan Healy, and Rospo right now, well, of course, he's starting the slicks to make the ground up, but when the rain does arrive, should it arrive, he's got to try and survive on slicks, so he's going to have to come in on wet to pick up wet tyres, and that's going to be the problem. Rospo right now has been an absolute rapid starter, no doubt about it. As meanwhile, we've had Mark Hutchison. That's Hutchison into the wall at turn number 7. He's gone straight on there, and the altitude 3 Esports drivers, and no one goes on. That, I believe, there was Kevin Smith almost being collected with him, but Hutchison's going to have to go to the pit lane, and Smith goes around as he rejoins, taking the painted strip there on slick tyres, and there's some water on it, and that painted strip's only going to slide him down and send him sideways. He now tries to make his way back up onto the banking, and does so just about. Well, definitely right now, it's a bit of a chaotic race, no doubt about it, but all these drivers still trying to live on in these conditions as best they can. Mark Kelsbear, meanwhile, he's got some front end damage to the Kudo Academy 225 car, and I wonder what exactly has happened there. We're not quite sure, but what we are certain of is the fact that right now the British driver definitely feeling a bit of pain on the straights and the banks as he'll be losing some speed. But Aurimas Zilinskas trying to make some progress. He goes down underneath Olivier Granier, being quite obliging there and letting that go, and the slick runner right now chasing after another slick runner, but letting the wet weather tyre drive drop behind him. As we do look from them back to Andrew Fellows, who's got Garrett Corby for close company, and Fellows on the wet tyre as well. Corby going high. That is very risky on a slick tyre to go high on the oval banking. He's going to brave it. It's Corby. He's going to have very little grip here heading towards turn number 1. But I think right now he thinks he's got the grip there to be able to do it. He goes around the outside, gets it on the dry line. Oh my good lord. And Corby coming down, then the car just completely sliding down. And we're at the end. Can he get it stopped in time in towards turn number 1? He does. And that will give him full place in club class, at least for now, as Oliver Kemp has gone around. Oh my goodness. And Oliver Kemp in the air now to do a big turnaround now on the exit 2 into 3. He rejoins, but I can imagine that's absolutely bruised his charge. As jaded is Sonny all the way back up into 6th place in club already, with Gareth Newton behind, and Oliver Kemp pushing on the inside here, trying to make a move. And well, it does. It seems as though right now these drivers absolutely throwing everything at it. As hold up, Quantity 2. Where on earth's he going? As he's onto the grass now, I think. Well, I'm not quite sure if he came off at turn number 4, he's come off at turn number 2, but either way, he's going to rejoin going in towards turn number 4. And well, unfortunately for Quality 2, that's gone very far backwards, but he does rejoin in the end. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field we go. And Philip Ansell right now, when all the madness is going on in this opening 5 minutes, he and Isaac Fairweather are pulling away as Devidas Lorenonis has been dropped by the 2 leaders. And right now, Ansell and Fairweather are going to work together as best they can. As you can see, the clouds at the top of your screen, they are gradually coming back over the circuit, and therefore we can expect some rain to arrive in due course. But Ansell right now, just keeping his head down there, and Fairwell doing the same. And I can imagine they're on the radio to each other, the team, and essentially say to each other, just keep it together, save the fuel, protect the tyres, and open up that lead as much as possible. As Rian Castille making his way around the outside of Pedro Luis da Silva for 5th place, and as he does so, the Team Enduro Tech driver attacking hard there, the Irishman, and will be rewarded for it in the 333 machine. Jordan Shamblin, still the interleader. He started at pole in the class. He's made 4 places overall. He's got Renee Mount, Kai Hitchler and Tim Perry queuing up behind him. They're all slick runners, you can see in the time towel there, and therefore that information available to you as these drivers coming around. As they make their way around and to the ground. Well, right now, we can definitely see Mount, Hitchler and Perry just queuing up. Thinking about the bigger picture. Your leading wet runner at the moment is Olivier Granier, and he right now on that wet tyre is running in 16th place, but not for long, as Mikhail Abasek's going to try and squeeze his way from outside to inside for turns 2 and 3. There'll be 2 wide here as Max Wheeler thinks about making it 3 wide in towards the hairpin, but of course the advantage that Abasek has here on the dry tyre, he's got a lot of pace, but not when he goes out wide there, because there's a lot of water on the outside of the horseshoe hairpin. And there's the rain. The rain is back already. 7 minutes into the race, the rain has come back a little bit earlier than expected, and right right now, it does mean that for those on the sticks, well, will they have to go to the pit lane? And this is a relatively long lap when the rain arrives at the start of the lap. And remember, they're going to have to drive for a lot of low-speed corners initially, rather than high-speed corners. Why is that important? Well, the lower the speed of the corner, the less the tyre temperature you're going to absorb, and therefore it means you're going to struggle for grip on the exit. Whereas on the overbanking, you essentially can push through the building water whilst you've got some tyre temperature on the slick tyre. But right now, as they come around, this is definitely going to be a situation. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see several drivers quickly deflect to the pit lane. As we do see the machinery there, Mikhail Avasek going low and making his way past Max Wheeler. Well, right now, he's got to hurry because he's surely going to be coming into the pit soon in order to be able to put the wet tyres on if he feels it's necessary. But of course, we'll have to wait to see who's going to come in and who's not. As we are, your race leader of Isaac Fairweather carries on. But meanwhile, Philip Ansell's dropped behind. And there's a damaged car there separating the trio, as that is the car. I believe that's the 120 being passed of Ivan Hauptke. And well, as he makes way around right now, the driver has definitely had a bit of a nightmare start today, but as he comes in towards the next braking zone, well, the privateer here just keeping his head down as best he possibly can, but damaged that car, and not the way he's wanted to go whatsoever. Rolling his way on around right now and up towards what will be the next braking zone. He's got a bit more work to do, and I do believe he's part of the Verano Esports with Edge Overlays team. Not quite sure why he's listed as a privateer. Well, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, Gavin Corby making his way on around as well. The 33rd place runner chased after Gareth Newton as they do fight over the top 5 spots in the club class, and Andrew Fellows carries on. But we have got some pit stops going on. In fact, hold up a second. What's David Payne doing there? I think he's going to the pit lane, so it's gone very wrong, or he's been turned. That's normally where you can't. Well, it's not normally where you see a car parked up, as that completely makes me mince my words. Oh my good lord! As a couple tries to get very close, and who's that going past there? That's Jaden Innes. Jaden Innes comes on through, but quite slowly there. Well, I wonder what exactly has happened. There's been a bit of an incident, and well, let's get a replay of that, plus plenty more, ladies and gentlemen. There's been some big incidents so far. As meanwhile, Oliver Kemp, he's trying to break away from Kevin Smith, who's up the inside of Nathan Healy. That's brave there from Smith, particularly when he's on slick tyres still. But he goes for it, and the rain came, and it stopped already. So therefore, it does seem as though, unless the rain's falling, our cameras are not picking up. Well, we've had a little bit of rain. I suspect we're going to continue to see some spotty rain. We've had some of the initial rain come down. It's just topped up the circuit for a little bit. And meanwhile, there you can see the rain on the camera again. So it's dependent on the part of the circuit at the moment. And Christian Ablasser being passed by both Kai Hitchler and Max Chambers, but they are all still on the slick tyres, these drivers, and Ablasser does have a slowdown penalty that he is trying to burn. That's why he's losing the time, as here comes Chambers looking around the outside versus the BMW driver. And well, these cars, of course, with very little rear wing on them, should they have gone all the way into the minimal downforce setup, they will be pushing the best part of 190 miles an hour in the draft of another car on towards turn number 1. And that's the amount of speed they cannot pick up. It's absolutely huge, the speeds they can carry into that opening corner. But of course, I suspect most teams will put a little bit more rear wing on the car just to help settle it down, in the fact we don't have a fully dry circuit before the rain arrived, and now we definitely do not have a dry circuit. But as Hitchler comes through at turn number 4, the Leopard Esports drive on the back of Chambers, a bit further back, Max Wheeler and Mark Kent. Well, there's going to be a bit of pressure from them to get past Olivier Granier, as right now we do see Wheeler on the wet tyres, much like Granier, and they're still your highest placed wet runners, and Kent is also on the wets as well. So therefore, these three of what is the Inter, the Pro and the Club class respectively, wet shod runners, and right now they'll be coming into the element here as they make their way up towards the hairpin. But as they do, Kent's just got to keep his cool. He's already the club leader. He doesn't need to do more than that, although he would like to make some extra places if he can. Coming on around. And as they do, well, unfortunately for Taus Vosberg, I do believe he didn't quite make it to the grid. Now, I'm not quite sure if there's a technical issue with the car or a delay. We are going to see what we can find out down in the pit lane. And I believe, well, unfortunately, there has been a technical issue for his car. So, unfortunately, Taus Vosberg not able to make it. And I do see there one of you in particular talking about him. And I do believe it's Tautalis saying Vosberg did not even grid. And unfortunately, no, there was a bit of a technical issue from what we gather from checking in down the pit lane. And that's not enabled him to be able to go race it, unfortunately, in his Porsche 911 RSR. So we do feel for him, so he did not get to start, whereas the other 49 drivers did. Carry on. Well, meanwhile, we look to Rian Casti, who parts the seas there between the car of Hauptke that's going a lap down and Jan Lintz that was going low, but the Team Endurotech driver carrying on and still surviving the conditions. And right now, the slick runner's trying to hold on. It's Jordan Shamblin. He comes into the pits, but they're all sliding, and there's Shamblin going very sideways. Pedro Luis da Silva gets it together, but Shamblin drifts his way into the pit lane. That's going to be a black flag for unsafe pit entry, and I won't be surprised that's going to be a stop and hold 40-second penalty for that. And that's the problem as they come into the pit lane. Casti's done the same. Oh my good lord! As in the end, that's all also going to be there. Well, that's one of the Altitude Frame Esports cars coming in. Couldn't quite see which one it was, but unfortunately goes very size. That's Mark Hutchinson. And well, this pit lane entry now is going to be an absolutely spicy one at that. A very slippery one's probably the better word, though. I don't think spicy quite qualifies it. But right now, the slick runners, I don't think they can afford to come into the pit. I think they've got to stay out, because the problem is there's so much water on the pit lane entry that if you do come in, you can see the standing water there just on the low line come of the banking into turn one. You come in, you've got to back off the throttle entirely, and even on a slick tyre, you're going to have no grip. You're going to aquaplane into the pit lane, and it's going to see so many drivers have difficulty getting to the pit. Oliver Kemp as well. I believe Kemp's also got it wrong. They're all coming in. Well, they've made it in. The cars are going to be serviced, but it's going to be a stop hold penalty potentially, and if so, well, that's going to be completely bruised and crippled into their race. But as we do say hello to Izzy Pop there, and also 2ZH37 at 47, who's cheering on at Max Chambers. Izzy Pop here tuning in for the Altitude 3M guys, as always, I do believe. And we also do see at Welsh Pop there talking about the rain dance that's been done by a few of you in the YouTube chat. Well, meanwhile, Isaac Fairweather and David Solorinonis going side by side again. And well, Fairweather's dropped back after he was leading the race for a brief moment. Oh, there's contact between Lorinonis and Fairweather, both on the brakes there. They both slide off into the tyre barrier. Oh my good lord, and it all goes to pieces of both drivers there. And right now the slick tyre's not the right tyre to be on. The cars are in pieces. Lorinonis rejoins, and into the back goes Pedro Luis da Silva. It's absolute pandemonium, and there's going to be cars damaged left, right and centre. There's going to be debris everywhere as Ansell comes into the pit lane. He slides into the pits. I don't believe what I'm seeing, ladies and gents, with the slick tyre was not the tyre to be on. They've tried to survive on it, but it's gone completely sideways, and that's Ansell going across the road. He rejoins the race circuit. I don't think he gets a black flag, but it becomes close for it. Meanwhile, Wilson Liu, he's just trying to get the car to stop in the pit lane. He does in the end, but it takes an eternity to get it stopped. And well, Tim Perry comes in on the win as well, but he's lost his rear wing in the process. Well, we do talk about aerodynamic reduction, and well, the Altitude 3M Esports try to take it a bit too literally there in terms of running zero wing, quote unquote, which is what you do at this circuit in the dry. You turn the wing setting down to 0, which is the minimum angle on it, but Ansell stays out. And right now, after coming into the pits previously, it all went very wrong. I think he's just having to brave these conditions right now, but this is absolute pandemonium. And Max Wheeler suddenly is up into second place here as we've got cars leaving the pit lane. And that timing tower right now, it's going to look as though it's essentially shuffling itself around. It's going to be shuffling itself around more than a Rubik's Cube, for the simple reason that you've got so many slick runners all coming into the pits, and the wet runners are going to all jump up the order. Well, it's going to take a long time, because keep in mind, they do have to spend what is the time putting the fuel in the car if they do first, plus also with the tyres. And it's 7 seconds per tyre, so 28 seconds just to change all 4 tyres. And if they do put any fuel, that goes in beforehand. They are not allowed to do them simultaneously. We are running World Endurance Championship rules here, which states that to put fuel in the car, you must have all 4 tyres touching the ground. So therefore, you can imagine those pit stops will be purely to put a new set of tyres on. It will be to put wets on. It will not be to put fuel in the car, because it would be absolutely disastrous. But goodness me, ladies and gents, but it has been absolute pandemonium as the pit lane is full of the field that came on that started the slick tyres. There are a couple of slick runners still out there. Kai Hitchler's trying to hold on. Philip Ansell's trying to hold on as well, as he takes a very liberal line there at the bus stop chicane. But right now, I don't think he's got the ability to take any other line. But as he makes his way on over, I can see that Brendan McCallion saying, what did we just witness? And indeed, we just witnessed absolute madness in the wet, and I'm indeed getting flashbacks now. If anybody remembers the World Endurance Championship race at Spa-Francorchamps back in, I think it was 2022, where the heavens opened up, we're seeing that here right now, and indeed all the drivers just sliding around, and Philip Ansell can't get into the pit lane. That's going to be an unsafe entry, because he has cleared the pit entry line at an excessive speed, so he does get into the pit, but Ansell's had to come in. He can't survive on those slick tyres anymore, and right now he's going to be thinking to himself, much like everybody else, that they've just lost out. Kai Hitchler's trying to keep it together as he takes a journey, and he bounced over the sausage curves. That's not going to help the suspension of his car at all, and the Airplay Esports car right now will be absolutely hurt by that as he makes his way onwards. And suddenly, in all of the madness, Max Wheeler is going to be leading the race, as behind him that is Dwayne Hoffman a lap down, is trying to push him onwards here and say, go Max, go, we can really push on. And Hoffman wants to try and make up the lap he's lost, and as he makes his way onwards, well, coming down towards what will be turn number 4, coming out the pit lane, that is going to be Bruno Key, and will return to the grid after missing the previous round. But good to see the We Pay 300 esports driver back, and well, he's a lap down now to wet tyres, as Ansell's still being serviced in the pit lane and having to take that 40-second stop and hold. And Kai Hitchler also into the pits now, albeit he has safely made his way into the pit lane. I should point out he's got no penalty, and he'll be the last driver to come off of the slick tyre, so he's being serviced at the moment. But with that, we're now into the wet era of this race. And this is going to be side by side between Christophe Debar and Mark Kent. Now remember, and we should say this very clear, Christophe Debar has served his drive-through penalty already. He is up into third place because he started the wet tyre. He made the gamble right. I wouldn't be surprised here if Christophe Debar, if he takes the win in this one, it's going to be probably the most emotional drive he's ever had to come into round with a drive-through penalty, serve it straight away, but now the strategy. But still, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're only 16.5 minutes into this race, but Olivier Grenier, your inter-leader, live sim racing right now, could pull the steal of the season here at Daytona in the wet weather conditions, but they've got a long way to go. Now, I hear many of you asking, where are certain drivers? We'll be up to speed with them. Where is Gianluca Rospo? Well, he's all the way back here in 46th place. He did have to come into the pits. We believe he started on the slick, and he did come in and changed all the tyres and put a little bit of fuel in the car. So the Deep Motorsport driver has suffered for that, but we should reassure you the fact he has not been involved in a major incident per se. He has come in and made that changeover, so therefore he's now got some work to do as he makes his way on around. But as we do say hello to AC Sim Racing there, and also to Marco Pitaluga, and we'll hope you're both doing well. Well, things been absolutely intense, no doubt about it so far, but we've still got a long way to go, and Ansell finally leaving the pit lane after the tyre change, plus also the stop and hold penalty. He makes his way out of the pit lane now, but he's all the way down to 33rd place. And well, ladies and gentlemen, he's almost a lap down at this point. There's Max Wheeler, the race leader, come up behind the 4-time winner in Pro Class right now. You could not make this up. This has been completely turned upside down. It's been shaken around. And well, as we do see Wheeler carrying on, well, he is absolutely running away at the moment. He's keeping his cool and carried on. And your top three are your leaders in each of the classes. It's Wheeler, Pro leader, ahead of Olivier Grenier, inter leader, as we see Dwayne Hoffman going wide. He's a lap down, but just right now trying to keep it on the road as best he can. And then you can see behind there is Mark Kent, your club leader, and well, the full tilt virtual motorsport driver at this point, keeping it together. Nathan Healy is only 8 seconds behind, that's second of your club drivers, but between them, Christophe Debar, who's fallen back a little bit. I think Debar right now just paced himself very carefully, and well, Welsh boy saying that this is reminding him of Fuji in 2008 in Formula 1. And also Nürburgring in 07 there, as Real Bottle Job says. Indeed, there's been a lot of these instances before where it just goes to absolute pandemonium when the weather arrives, and it arrives so soon. But as Mark Carlsberg catches up to the back of Tim Perry, well, ladies and gentlemen, things have calmed down to a degree. And well, as we do see Carlsberg look for the move here on Perry in towards turn number 1. He's going to be a bit too far back to be able to go for that lunge. He looks up the inside, and well, the Cuda Academy driver here definitely right now trying to go on the attack and make up some lost ground. As Flavien Tieffry being passed there by Victor Chamorro, and the Corvette driver making a very smooth move up the inside there, and that Corvette is looking very good in these wet conditions. I wonder whether right now Chamorro could be a bit of a dark horse in this one. He's a long way off of the class leader, but he is definitely looking to be in a happy space. Well, given the fact we have some calm, ladies and gentlemen, and I've stopped doing my best Celine Dion impression from earlier on, we are going to go back in time and take a look at some of the big moments in this race. So without further ado, we go all the way back to the start. So this is how we went green flag racing. As we did, of course, we did miss the very front of the field when it went green due to the extent of the field and the shortness of the formation lap. But Philip Ansell got us underway in dry conditions for Cuda Motorsport. And as he did, well, it was a mixture of drivers on slicks, bound to find the dry line, and drivers on the wet weather tyre. Particularly Christophe Debar there, who you saw immediately go into the wet before they made the way into turn number 1. So all the field came through the opening few quarters, and to be fair, well done to everyone for doing so. Everyone had a very clean start for the most part, and it was very impressive to see so many drivers make it safely all around. But then things started to go a little bit wrong for some drivers, because on lap number 1, we had this for Sammy Alex. This was Alex going green, and the privateer, before he could get there, well, built up the speed, squeezed the space between Hauptke and also, I believe that's Gar Massey, and unfortunately being collected there, and with it, also ended up collecting another driver, and I believe that's the car of Clyde Vella. So he towed to the pit lane, and then things went a bit wrong for some other drivers. We did have this big moment for Jaden Innes, albeit this was Innes going very sideways there, and well, can we get the previous moment which happened? I believe we can. This is how it all began, with Jaden Innes end up in a bit of an altercation. This was coming out of what was turn number 4, and as he did so, a couple of cars going slowly. Oh, that was Matthew Massey being turned, and then a car came across Innes' front, and I couldn't quite see which one that was. That was well your BMW M8, and it all led to pandemonium. Was that Salcuni ended up across the front of him? We're not quite sure, but you can see what happened there, and Sonny, it all went wrong for those drivers. But then we did have a bit of a moment for John Becker as well on the open lap, and this was Becker making his way out of turn number 6 up towards 7, looking one way then the other, trying to make a move here on the GPX SimSport Vertex car. Went all in, and in the end went a bit too deep there, went straight into the barrier, battling the 144, and that would have been your driver in the 144, another Andrew Fellows. So he went straight on, but thankfully came into the pit straight away and repaired the car. But then we had this for Marcus Clayton on lap number 2. So Clayton battling here for Rhino Esports for the edge overlays, and as he did go a bit high, well behind, there was a 2 wide, and losing it down on slick tyres, touched the wet water on the outside and went sliding to the barrier, side on in, and will carried on, but a damaged car there and learned from that. But he had a bit of a later incident, and in fact he had to park up there with the damage, and that was his race to the pit lane. Then we had Mark Hutchinson, your Altitude Frame Esports 4 GT driver, attacking what was the car of Christian Ablasser, went to the wet patch there, and then realised you don't want to go to the wet patch because that turns your car into what is a snowmobile, and in the end, well, I can't think of the appropriate term there, ladies, did a 391 driver going straight on, slick tyres and water do not mix. It's essentially turned his car into having ice skates on it. That's what we're trying to say, but unfortunately there, the blade's not sharp enough to be able to get it to stop in time. And then we did see it all go a bit wrong for Mikel Salcuni. Salcuni on lap number 2 went down low, and he was the one caught up in an incident earlier on the opening lap, and touching the water, tapped the rear of the Inox Motorsport car in front of him and sent both drivers straight on. They were able to recover, but not Salcuni, as he found the tyre barrier, and that was a bit of a thud there. We then did have a bit of a big moment for Mikhail Abasek on lap number 3, and this was Abasek having things go very well for Inox Motorsport as he made his way into the bus stop chicane on the slick tyre, went in, the rear of the car let go, went sliding onto the wet patch, and at that point you are a passenger in the car, and Abasek found that out the hard way, unfortunately, when he did hit the barrier. And then Dwayne Hoffman almost came into it there, but Hoffman doing well to catch the car, and Abasek moving very quickly in reaction. We did unfortunately have this happen to Gianluca Rospo on lap number 4, and this is when the rain arrived. He was tapped on the rear there by one of the Academy cars, and that sent it to the barrier. Couldn't quite tell you who that was, whether it was Calsbear or Payne, but even Rospo, unfortunately, with that contact, sent him round, and that's where he went to the back of the field. I think it was David Payne who made that contact. And then we did have this for Gavin Corby. This was Corby making his way in towards turn number 4 on lap 5. And well, things did go a little bit wrong for Corby under braking. Went in deep, went deeper, and in the end found the grass, and then went all the way off and went rallycross instead. But those are some of the big moments before the rain arrived, and you know the rest of the story, ladies and gents. But after that, but not, of course, this little bit of story with Isaac Fairweather and Davidas Lorinonis. And this, of course, was when the two of them went side by side on slick tyres in increasingly wet conditions of the bus stop chicane. Lorinonis, in the end, could not get the car to stop, hit Fairweather on the back, and both drivers went straight on there, and it was absolutely in pieces. But with that, we head back to your live racing. Now, as we do, well, we've still got a lot of racing time to go here, and we've had quite a few replays, and as we do, we've had a bit of a change, as we've got Max Wheeler now dropping down to 4th place. The rain's still falling, but the sun's coming back out. We've got the black flag for Kevin Smith. That'll be for instant points and a drive-through penalty, we suspect, but Wheeler's lost the lead of the race. So, whilst we did say we'll come back to your live racing, we are just going to step away for a brief moment to find out what's happened there, as we do see Isaac Fairweather pinning his way up the inside of Andrew Fellows. And, well, Andrew Fellows falling down the overall position, but not a class position, as we fall back in time briefly to see what exactly happened to race leader Max Wheeler. Now, this was Wheeler at the time, three-wheeler racing in control at the front. Went into turn 1 on wet tyres. What went wrong then? Went into the braking zone, went deep, touched the white line, a lot of water there, and the car just went straight on, and then had to turn it all the way round to make sure he did not cut the course and pick up what would have been a minute-long time penalty. So Wheeler there doing his best impression to make sure he did not run too wide, and we come back to your live racing. So a big month for him, as now we come back to your live racing. We're going to stay with it for a while, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate, of course, we don't want to miss too much of live racing action. Of course, anything can happen at any moment, and we want to be there when we can. As Mark Hutchinson and Tim Perry have all been involved in incidents, and so has Jan Lintz quite recently. And, well, we don't want to miss too much more than that. But as we do see these drivers making it through, Clyde Vell at the moment with Nathan Healy and Gareth Newton behind. And Newton is on a mission here for GPX SimSport Vertex to push forward and make his way on to the bank in. The 124 driver, we're staying as close as he possibly can at the moment in the draft as we do run aboard the dashboard. And, well, we get a lovely view, of course, of the rain just gradually coming up on the windscreen. You can see the spray of the cars in front there he's trying to chase after. But Healy holding on at the moment in front of him, and Newton following suit. We look to the class standings, and then you can see who exactly lines up where in which class, and that's where the points are made and paid. So those are the most important positions. Overall position is less important unless you're trying to make sure that somebody in another class acts as your buffer. Also, if you want to get them out of the way so you can go hunting somebody else in your class. Right now, Gareth Newton hold on to third, and we does have a very comfortable 16.5 second gap to Brian Beardsworth behind him, but he's still got to try and close down that gap of a second to Nathan Healy, but he'll do so. Coming for the hairpin there. a little bit, as we did see Nathan Heaney making a bit of a ham sandwich in the corner initially, but then Newton taking a lot of apex curve, and the rear of the car started to slide slightly loose. He heads onwards. We leave us on board for now. And a bit further down the order, we do have David Payne, where he's definitely been in a bit of difficulty today, but he's currently running 12th in the interclass, and he has Mikhail Eversek behind him. So they come through the chicane there, and that's going to be going straight on for the Valent Racing Team car. I'm not quite sure which one that was. I think that was John Becker there in the club class, going straight on. So he does pick up what will be a slowdown penalty for that. And David Payne, by going wide, well, he's going to give some time back. He does so as he rejoins, and that's going to buy Eversek a bit of time as Phil Ansell comes through as well just behind him. There is Ansell, and well, your pro pole sitter right now, knowing that things have gone very much backwards, and he's going to try and pick up things where he can. But of course, there will be the question of whether a driver switches to the dry tyre towards the end of the race. But right now, the spray that you're seeing off the back of these cars, I don't think the slick tyre is going to be the tyre to go for. As we do see Ansell on the inside of Mikhail Eversek, and he'll make that double pass there. Lovely move from Ansell. And now his next target will be Rene Maurer right in front. That will be for a length place in pro class. As he gets ready to go on to the brakes, reverses him in towards the hairpin. A bit too far back there to go for the move, but understandably having to react and make sure he does not clip the back of his rival. But right now, Phil Ansell, it's definitely a race that's got a bit backwards. As meanwhile, that is Christophe Dubois, and Dubois made the same mistake as Max Wheeler into turn one. So suddenly, your overall lead is in the hands of an Inter driver, and that is Olivier Granier, who right now taking control at the very front of the field. Max Wheeler's 2 seconds behind, and well, there is a big puddle of water on the outside into turn one, and that's what they're hitting. And when they do, it is carrying them very far up the corner. But Dubois immediately back on the attack here versus Wheeler as they make the way up towards turn number 6. And right now, this race is chopping and changing, and well, at any moment, one driver makes a mistake out there, and we can see things completely change. We're also keeping an eye on Isaac Fairweather. He has just off camera passed Max Chambers. He's now up into 7th place in the pro class. So Fairweather is making haste, and indeed, he's the fastest driver out there at the moment, lapping in which the low 52s in the 52.0s and 52.1s, whereas your leaders by comparison are lapping in the 53s and the 54s. So do not count out Fairweather for this one. He may be a long way away from the front of the pro field, but there's nothing to stop him from coming through. We've still got over 30 minutes of racing to go, plus the final lap, and well, every lap's going to prove pivotal from this point onwards. But Wheeler right now, your pro leader going high. There's Christophe Dubois going to go underneath and going low, and now on to the backstretch they go, and Wheeler just letting that lead slip away, but I think that's by design there. He doesn't want to fight too hard. He's prioritising keeping himself out of trouble. He wants the podium at least, rather than worrying about the win. Meanwhile, Mark Kent back on the side by side with Wilson Liu. Liu goes round the outside him there to take 4th place overall. So I think Kent here being a bit obliging, knowing the club leads in his hands, and well, if he can make it 3 wins in a row, he definitely would be right inside that top 3 in the championship going into the second half of the season. So this is a very important result for him, and he doesn't want to let it go. But in the battle for second in the club class, Healy versus Newton, they're still 7 tenths apart. And a bit further back, we have had an incident for Andrew Fellows, who has gone on a round, I believe, and well, with that, has dropped a bit further down the order. But meanwhile, whilst we've got drivers falling down the order, one driver who's trying to push his way up the overall order is Davidos Lorinonis, and he's going to make a move that on Brian Beardsworth. That will be for 12th place overall. There's another change there for the SLB Motorsport by Linz Vega driver, as he continues to chase down the top 4 of the pro class. We're 22.5 seconds away, but he is making that progress as quickly as he can. Looking back to Matthew Massey, he's on the back of Bruno Key for 8th place in club. As they make the way out to turn at number 1, how much closer can he get as they come through? Well, the answer is quite close as we ride on board the 189 machine. Remember the Spectre Racing driver, he was spat out to turn number 4 on the open lap, involved in what was a multi-car contact situation. And well, the British driver losing out, but he's put himself back into the race after starting on pole position in the club class. He's brought himself back in through the fact he was able to come into pits and get some early repair work. So it's actually worked out in a way, and on those wet tyres there, nothing to lose at that point as he now makes his way in towards turn number 6. And of course, the sun is out and the rain has stopped. So at this point onwards, we are going to see the circuit dry very gradually. But of course, with direct sunlight and limited cloud, this circuit may start drying quicker and quicker. And once it really starts to dry, you'll see those puddles of water, particularly on your normal race line at this Daytona road course, will really go away, and we'll suddenly have a very light grey line on the tarmac versus what will be much darker lines. The dark lines will represent the standing pools of water, or will turn to the wetter road surface. I mean, you'll have that very light grey patch, much like in qualifying, and that's going to be the big challenge once again. As he tries to make the way onwards, and we do say hello to All About the Gyro there, who does say, well, unfortunately, he has had the Frankfurt server punish him again, and that will be due to a bit of netcode contact, I suspect, with another driver or a desync, and, well, unfortunately, out of the race. I do feel for Dwayne Hoffman there, and, well, still 2 of the full tilt virtual motorsport cars racing, but unfortunately, the 3rd one not in this one at the moment. It's out of the race. But as we do see Matthew Massey trying to look for a move, going high with Bruno Key. Is he going to be able to get it this time? The answer is no. He's got some speed, but the problem is that BMW says no because it's even quicker. And they make the way now onto the flat, at the pit lane entry. And well, a lot of spray there, you can barely see. He's got to peel out, and that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to get some visibility of where he's going to be braking it towards turn number 1. And Massey right now knows he's got to go back into the spray to get on the brakes here. Goes on to the anchors. As he does so, make sure not to hit that water on the right-hand side. Getting nice and close over under braking. The Porsche driver definitely more confident on the brakes compared to Key in his BMW. But on those straights, that BMW is absolutely incredible in terms of its top-end speed. Now, we have got a few drivers into the pit lane. Max Wheeler is coming in. I think this is going to be a strategic stop. And he's in for a set of slicks. I don't believe my eyes. This early to go to slicks, that's a gamble. I think that's too early a gamble to go to slick tyres right now. I think they need to wait at least, what is another 10 minutes or so to go to the slick tyre, but perhaps they've seen something we haven't. But you're seeing that right in the time tower right now as we show you the overall standings. Wheeler, Schwertfeger, they're going back to the slick tyre already. And well, they're going to be the first litmus test as to whether this circuit is prime for slicks or whether it's too soon. But they're going to have to get out of pit lane. And it's got loads of standing water on the pit lane exit, and right now he's got to get through what is the pit lane exit version of turn 1 hairpin, and it may not look as though there's much water there, but we promise you there is. You can see the little bit of spray coming off of the car. Wheeler's just going to tiptoe his way out here, take it nice and easy. The traction control will be turned up to maximum right now. He can adjust that inside the car. That's the only thing he can adjust, and the brake bias. But Wheeler carries on, so he drops down to 19th place, but he's on to slicks, and we'll monitor his progress with great interest as he heads on and goes straight on at turn at number 4, and that's the point we make. He's got no actual track surface and no tyre temperature. Those tyres that come out the blankets, he avoids the tyre barrier, takes the run-off area. But Wheeler right now, I think this is just too soon. I think he is throwing away what could be a really good chance here today of a maiden podium with the Pro class. And as Cygnus 9421 says there, slick is not going to work right now, way too wet. And we completely agree with you, Cygnus, spot on. And right now, well, it's all chop and change those are the wet, but those are the slicks. They've called it too soon. Schwertfeger's still in the pit lane meanwhile. In fact, he's had to tow back to the pits after going onto the slick tyres, so therefore it's not worked out at all. What about Brian Beardsworth? Well, he's made his way into the pits and come back out, and he's on the wet tyre once again. So I suspect that he's decided to come in and thinks, okay, I'm going to be on the wets all the way to the end. Well, some drivers may make that call now, but they will have to come in to put some fuel in the car unless they already did it in the pit lane when they came in originally, which they may have, but had they saved enough fuel to do so. So that's going to be another conundrum as well. You may feel very comfortable on these wet tyres. We're looking at Benjamin Massey in 4th place at the moment, but understandably, you may end up in a situation whereby you haven't got the fuel to get to the end, and therefore you've got to do a lot of fuel saving, or suddenly you've got to come in for a splash and dash, which could cost you some places. For Jordan Shamlin and Vidas Andruskevicius, they're fighting over 8th in the interclass, and what I do see there, the question of where is Gianluca Rospo being said by some of you, we'll come back to him very shortly, as we do look at this battle at the moment for what will be 8th place, but such a more significant battle in the interclass. In fact, you're looking at two of the big names in the class right now fighting for what is a scramble of points, but they mean that every point is absolutely valuable to them. We're coming on the round on to what is the second part of the banking, and indeed at turn number 12, well, John Becker, well, he's going to go around the outside of David Payne, goes high there for the Valent Racing team, and the Frenchman making, well, the Dutchman, I should say, not the Frenchman, it's French colours, but also Dutch colours on the car, and they do have a Frenchman in Flavien Thieffry driving it in the interclass, but here in club, it's the Dutchman of John Becker, well, he's making some steady progress, now up into 27th, and almost on the back of the Irishman of Rhiannon Cassidy. He now make a move for that 26th place, goes high in the battle of the drag race, but in the end, decides to back off nice and early there. As he comes down onto the brakes, no change between them. As Flavien Thieffry right now, his teammate, fighting side by side with Victor Shimaro for 6th place in the interclass. And Thieffry started 16th in Inter, he's already up to 6th place, he's trying to hold on, and Shimaro starting where he is. But meanwhile, Max Wheeler suddenly jumps up the order. I think he's cut the course. I think he's cut the course at turn 1 and gone straight on. And Wheeler's going to drop back down the order rather rapidly as a result, if that is the situation. So I have to keep you updated to that. But Wheeler on the slick tyre, that has not worked out at all. He's dropping down the order like a stone right now. And well, Flavien Thieffry and Victor Shimaro still fighting, but Shimaro cannot find a way through, and Thieffry holding on. Clyde Vella is into the pit lane. Now, what's he doing in the pit lane? I believe the car's being serviced. It has to reverse back into his pit box, but now it's being looked after, and as it is being worked on, is he going to the slicks? We'll have to see. He's come in from at the time what was, I believe, 2nd place in the interclass, and he's already leaving the pit lane. So it's a splash and dash for Clyde Vella. He stays on the wets to the very end. So Vella has now sealed the deal. He's made his grave. He's got to line it with regards to which tyres he's picked, as the saying goes. We'll have to see what he does. As meanwhile, Nathan Healy, under pressure for Gareth Newton, are really putting in a huge rear guard job right now for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. They want to try and make it a 1-2, but Mark Kent is 15 seconds up the road ahead of Healy. And meanwhile, Gareth Newton looking to poke and probe here as they come in towards the left-hander at turn number 7. 7. As they do, what will be the move here for the Corvette driver? He'll have the better traction out the corner, given a mid-engine rear-wheel drive. You want the weight towards the rear of the car to get the traction in the wet conditions. But of course, the BMW has the straight line speed. But here goes Newton, going high. Now, has he got the speed to go around the outside? Initially, he says yes. But then as they now make the way towards the end of the banking, remember that by going high, Newton actually has a longer distance to travel. He gets very close to the wall there, all over the back of Healy, coming down towards the chicane. Does he go for it in towards the bus stop? The answer is no. And Healy holding on there. The BMW driver played his cards right and saying to Newton, if you want it, you're going to have to go the long way round and you're not going to get it. But meanwhile, oh, that's quite a hitch who's got around. That's into turn number 6. I suspect he's had a mistake through 5 and the car's gone very sideways. Meanwhile, we do have Wilson Liu scooping around the outside of Olivier Granier. So now the 1-2 potentially for the live sim racing team. That's been spoiled a little bit by the We Pay 300 Esports 388 Liu. But of course, that's a move for overall position only. Meanwhile, Gareth Newton and John Ludbrook. Well, Ludbrook's had enough time here to think about when to make the move on Healy and Newton. He's going to make the move on Newton first, and Gareth Newton on the inside, Ludbrook on the outside. He takes a bit of that water. He avoids the white line, however, and meanwhile, car goes straight on. Now, who's that goes straight on? That's Max Wheeler, who now goes effectively a lap down on the slick shod tyres. And well, as he turns it around here for Max Wheeler, this is going from good to bad to disastrous. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to wait there for everyone to come through, as we do see Sammy Alex come through the bottom of your camera. Where exactly is he in the running order? And the answer to that question is, well, we're not quite sure at the moment, ladies and gents. We're going to find out when we can. And that's Sammy Alex right now, who is multiple laps down, and he's on the wet tyre. So he's going for his one and only pit stop, and he makes his way back out. In fact, he's been in the pits for a long time. He's had all the repair work done to the car after a second pit stop for repairs. In fact, a third pit stop. So Alex right now back out there trying to secure some points. And to be fair, with the way this race is going, being out there to the very end, even if you are multiple laps down, you could definitely gain some, but we're not expecting any more rain here today. We've had that very small spell in the race, and now we're expecting the circuit to dry. But who exactly is going to brave the slick tyres, if at all, at the right time? As we do come back to the Healy-Newton battle. As that's going to be Newton trying to go high once again. And full tilt motorsport driver will cover it off in the BMW. Just let the car roll high. And well, that's going to be John Ludbrook going up the inside of Newton. And will he get both of them here on the brakes? The answer is going to be no. So Ludbrook just takes one of them, settles back into that running order, and now make his way through. He'll back onto the banking once again. But Ludbrook is looking to be the slightly quicker driver. And we're running second at the moment in class. That's in the interclass. His target, of course, is to get past these guys, and he's got to try and close down a 23-second gap to class leader Olivier Granier. Well, that may sound impossible on paper, but he's going to try and make the possible here as he roars his way up towards turn number 1 on the outside of the BMW of Healy. It's going to be a drag race, but I think Ludbrook here running a bit less rear wing and also a bit more confident in his abilities in the car, and we will just scoop around the outside. He'll just get ahead into the braking zone, and Healy's not going to fight that. Realising, of course, they're in 2 different classes. But meanwhile, we've had a bit of a change of position between Mikhail Everstedt and Vidas Andruskevicius. And Andruskevicius, in fact, just rejoined from the exit at turn number 6. He went wide at the hairpin. He's had it off, so he falls back there into 10th place in the interclass. But meanwhile, whilst all that's going on, we do look to the privateer machine of Ivan Halpka. And as he comes in towards the braking zone, well, looking good in the 1-2-0 at the moment at least. And on his way through the corners, it is a situation whereby he's in 6th in the class. He knows he's missing his front bumper, and that's in club. So he's having a happy day in the office. What about Gianluca Rospo? We promised you we'd give you an update on him. He's just behind, and the Deeb Motorsport driver at the moment running in 12th place in the club class. He is he's in fact 2 laps down at the moment in this race, but still he's keeping his head down and carried on. And there could be some more points to be paid because we've got John Becker in the pit lane with a very damaged car, and I believe that car's going to be there for the long haul because he does not have a fast repair available to him. So Rospo will gain 11th place most likely in the club class, and they will need to try and find a way to close down Marcus Clayton, who's a long way out the road, but never say never, he may just be able to do it. We do have 44 of our 50 runners remain at the moment. Along the way, we have lost a non-start for Taos Vosberg, a technical issue with the car. We also lost along the way Mikhail Salcuni, Max Dean, Aurimas Zilinskas, Gavin Corby, and our most recent retiree, Dwayne Hoffman. And well, since then, still 44 runners at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, and still 20 minutes of racing to go. And as we do look to Victor Shimara, still keeping Jordan Shamlin behind. These two battling back and forth. In fact, Shimara has found his way past Shamlin quite recently. This is the fight for 5th place in the interclass. We do look to those class standings. And Shimara right now just keeping nice and tight on the braking there to the hairpin. And saying to Shamlin, well, there's a small space if you want to go for it, but it's only going to end up in tears if we both make contact. So right now, Shimara really teasing Shamlin, trying to get him to make mistakes, looking for the move. And when the Spaniard here right now knows he can't make the break away, and therefore what he can do is just simply be a bit of a nuisance as a defensive defensive driver. It's all legal, of course, whereby he just puts the car in the right position to make it not worth Shamlin's time to try and go for a move. It's inviting, but it's not worth it. And that's the thing. Shamlin right now has got to make the correct gauge of when he can attack versus when he cannot. If he gets it wrong, makes contact, we'll suddenly be both in the steward's room, and Shamlin's going to switch to the inside. It goes to the painted line, and when the end realises he's going to have no traction in towards the chicane if he does that, so therefore he makes sure not to. But Victor Chamorro, I do believe there, carried all the speed right now, is going to see that Philip Ansell's going to get a bit closer to him, and Ansell there's picked up a slowdown penalty through the chicane. He's going to bleed that penalty, and will these two catch up? But not before Shamlin gets to him, and here we go. Jordan Shamlin going high, but immediately he comes out to that draft, going high, he loses some time there to the Corvette. He's going to gradually gain now little by little. I mean, indeed, right now that Porsche does not look to have the legs on the straights compared to the Corvette. And with the American muscle doing everything it can to stay ahead. But Shamlin just about getting clear, is he? He can't quite close the door at the moment. He breaks in towards turn number one. Shimura in the end does back out a little bit on that inside line. And Shamlin going around the outside. Back into 5th place, the interclass. But it's maybe all back and forth. Meanwhile, we do look here today for the Healy, who right now are keeping Gareth Newton behind, and they have a new player in the game. That is Douglas Lorenonis, your 4th place runner in the Pro class, who's trying to segue his way in. And Healy, under huge pressure, jumps over the curb there. As he comes through turn number 10 in towards 11, he's going to take to the escape route. That's going to be a slowdown penalty for David Healy. That is going to gift what will be 2nd place in the club class to Gareth Newton. Isaac Fairweather comes on through, and these drivers right now are pushing hard. Remember, we said that Isaac Fairweather was lapping 2 seconds lap quicker than the overall leader. Well, now, with Christophe Dubois at the front of the field, he's matching him for 4 laps, but you can see that Isaac Fairweather is absolutely charging and chasing down Lorenonis as quickly as he can, and Gareth Newton and Nathan Healy, in fact, have been pushed back to each other with the excursion of the Pro Drive getting between them. So therefore, Healy's actually going to be quite happy, as that's going to be a look up the inside there for the lap down car of Marcus Clayton, the 191. They all squeeze on through, and Clayton doing a good job there of being very aware of everyone coming on through. It's not easy, to be fair, in dry conditions, let alone in the wet. Meanwhile, that's getting very tasty, and that's going to be Matthew Massey and Christian Ablasser passing Bruno Key, as I think Sammy Alex is going to try and unlap himself here. Goes around the outside, and then that behind, I believe it's going to be your 355 of Pedro Luis da Silva trying to put a lap on Bruno Key, and I don't think Bruno right now knows which cars to worry about and which ones not to. And to be fair, I would be lost too if I was in his shoes. He's just been absolutely swarmed by drivers, and he's lost several places overall in class, but also he's lost time to drivers on the lead lap. So it's a bit of a mess there, but he's now getting things under control. And his first mission objective has got to be to try and catch back up to Ablasser and Massey if he can, because he wants to get that 7th place back in club class off of Massey in particular, who you see in the Black Spectre racing machine go underneath our camera angle. Make the way out of the picture. Well, meanwhile, we do look back up to Ryan Cassidy, and right now the Irish driver here for Team Endurotech heading on towards another lap, but not without Vidas Andruskevicius keeping him company. Well, definitely right now a bit of a concern here in terms of the fact, what does he do in this situation? Does he let the place go? Well, he's going to have to let the place go there to your overall leader, Christophe Dubois, and behind that is going to be a fast charge. That's David Payne literally coming from another postcode. Payne there, where on earth did he put on the brakes? Well, the Kudo Academy driver dived up the inside and took the place there off of was Cassidy, just like that, and also Vidas Andruskevicius. But as we can see there, Cassidy now having to go offensive, making the way around. And as he does so, well, the Team Endurotech driver here will be surprised how Payne got him through. And David Payne, just like that, disappears off up the road. He really is the Zorro of the grid there. And indeed, the Mars driver just making his way straight on the inside, then disappearing like a flash. Indeed, that's fever in daylight there, if I've ever seen it in a GTE car. What a move from David Payne. And we need an on board of that one. And here we go back in time for a replay, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Payne. He can see in front of him. There is going to be Christophe Dubois, making sure those two go out to the outside. And Payne, in the end, just leant on the brakes here gently, went on the inside of one, and got to the inside of a second. And Cassidy went a bit deep. And in the end, Payne just simply sailed on through there. And I think catch them both completely unawares. But with that, it's now back to your live racing. But as we do see there, all about the gyro, it's saying that for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, they're going to be inbound at the end of their current lap to go onto the slicks. Well, if so, it's going to be a gamble. In fact, we are inbound to the pits this time by. That does not mean they're going to the slicks. Sorry, I've misread that. That's misinformation there, ladies and gentlemen. What we do know is they are into pits because Kent comes in and out. He's on to a new set. In fact, he stays on the same set of wet tyres. And the same for Nathan Healy. They are not going to the slick tyre. They're committing to the wets all the way to the end. I think that's the right call. I don't think this circuit is going to dry up anywhere near enough. But as all these tries push it on, we do look to Max Chambers, who's chasing after Deverus Lorenonis. And, well, let's get a little look at how the Concord Motorsport driver's doing. And the answer is, with 15 minutes to go, he's currently running 6th in the Pro class, 9th overall, and Laurinaitis in front of him does have a black flag for instant points, so therefore Laurinaitis will need to serve a drive-through penalty at some point between when he's earned it, and I believe he earned it a lap ago, and within 3 laps of it. If he does not, it gets upgraded to a straight disqualification penalty, if my memory serves me correctly, and he will be removed from the race. So he needs to get that penalty out the way. He cannot serve it as well as his pit stop. We are seeing several drivers make the way into the pits for their fuel stops now. And it is going to be a very short splash and dash of the car, and Will Chambers definitely keeping his head down right now and pushing on as best he can. As he does so, the Concord Motorsport driver staying close to Laurinaitis, and the 324 driver, or will he deflect to the pit lane this time around? He comes onto the flat, and something tells me he may do so, and no, he goes another lap. So he's going to use up one of the remaining laps that he has, where he does have to take that penalty, and well, he'll get, I believe, one more after this current lap. Isaac Fairweather, meanwhile, does make his way in, and that releases Pedro Luis da Silva up into 9th. So Fairweather comes through for his drive-through penalty. It will be a relatively quick trip down pit lane. It's going to set it back a little bit, and unfortunately, instant points there accumulated too much. As we do see going around the outside of him there, that, I believe, was the car of Jaden Innes. That has now unlapped itself in 8th place in club, but 31st overall in relation to Fairweather. Fairweather carries on then. Drive-through penalty has been served. We've got a few more drive-through penalties out there, including for Gianluca Rospo, who's recently picked one up. He's chasing John Becker for 11th place in club, but unfortunately now both of them are going to be sent backwards as a result of their penalties, and Becker is on a set of slick tyres. The Valent Racing Team driver has recently gone to those slicks on lap number 20, and in doing so well. He's trying to survive on them. His lap times at the moment, however, they're not too bad. They are 53.5s that he's delivering. And keep in mind that right now your club leaders of Gareth Newton, if we do say so, the one out there is on a 52.3. So that slick tyre could come into fruition towards the very end, but I don't think he's going to make up the time. But as we do look to Christophe Dubois into pit lane then from what was the lead of this race, yielding the lead to Wilson Liu for now. Well, we do wonder when Wilson Liu is going to come in. He's got a lot of traffic in front of him, lap down traffic as well. That's not going to help him. And I think Christophe Dubois has read the writing on the wall and said, you know what, get it in now and get out of the pack. Well, who picks his way on past there? One of the front of Esports Edge overlays cars. I think that's Kevin Smithy side by side. Smith found a lot more grip on the outside there of the horseshoe hairpin compared to the U, so they can find traction everywhere they go. But nearly will back out there towards turn number 5-9. The inside is not where you want to be into that fast left-hander, because the rear of the car just completely let go if you do. Meanwhile, Max Chambers comes on through, going up the inside here of Douglas Laurinaitis, and that's going to be for 4th place on the road in Pro. But we believe, in fact, I think that is going to be 4th place in Pro, because Crystal Dubois is already back out there. So Chambers making a critical move, and that's going to be a very happy moment for him. As coming up the pit lane, that is going to be your into 2nd place runner, but we believe your effective inter-strategic leader of Olivier Granier. So Granier falls behind this battle. He won't be too upset about that, because he can stay with the 2 Pro drivers and pick up a little slipstream off of them. So now, how does John Ludbrook react? Well, I don't think he really chooses to react here, because the GPX Supersport Xenon driver is only the best part of 8 seconds up the road from Granier, and I think Granier's really got this one sealed and signed, unless he makes a mistake. But Gareth Newton, Andrew Fellows, they're into the pit lane. This will release Mark Kent back up the order, but where is Newton? In fact, no, it does not. Gareth Newton's going to come out ahead of Mark Kent, so Gareth Newton goes for the overcut, and with what's a much shorter pit stop compared to Mark Kent, and I think Kent has gone to a fresh set of wet tyres in the pit lane, and we can confirm he has. He had a 40-second pit stop, 39.28 to be precise. He's put 4 new wet tyres on and taken all the fuel. Gareth Newton, he's on the same set of wet tyres as what he started when he made his way onto that stint, and he's decided now to run those wet tyres all the way to the end. So we'll have to see whether Kent can get those new wets into his own, and if he can he chase Gareth Newton down? The gap, 3 seconds. They're both in your camera there, but that is a strategic change, and Gareth Newton right now trying to take his first win of the season. You can see why he's done this. He's got nothing to lose, because the gap to Andrew Fellows is a sizable 15 seconds. So at this point, the worst case situation, Newton finishes 2nd, perhaps 3rd, but he will be on that podium. And well, the best case situation, he beats Mark Kent here by just simply not changing those tyres over. We've got more pit stops. John Ludbrook in as well, as he comes on down towards the pit line and taking it very carefully there into the pits, braking nice and early. That is going to cost him effective time. That's going to cost about 3 seconds. But to be fair, you do not want to get a pit speeding penalty at the moment, or a pit lane entry penalty, we should say, by just being too brash. and therefore doing the exact right thing. As meanwhile, Olivia Grenier now retakes the interlead. Where's Mark Calsbear? Here he is, make his way on past pit entry. He goes on 10 minutes to go. We believe he will need to pit, however, in order to be able to get to the end on fuel. He's going to try and leave it as late as humanly possible. Davidas Loinonis has a black flag as he leaves the pit lane. I think that's an unsafe pit entry. Brush the board, spins coming out of the pit lane. And the SRB Motorsport, when Linz Vega drive, it's all gone wrong. It's gone around. And his chances to top 5 in the pro class have definitely fallen through the ground. As we can see there, he reverses the car. He's trying to reverse it all the way back on, but I don't think he's got any traction in his car right now. And for Loinonis, he's going to try and get it to turn around eventually. He's trying to flick the car. That's what he's doing. He's trying to understand how he can flick it round, but then hits the concrete barrier, and that's not going to help the rear of the car. The front of the car is also damaged, and also, of course, he will have, well, I think that black flag he did have has gone, in fact. So, well, if he was serving a black flag in the pit lane, it's a bit odd that it didn't go away until after he'd gone through, but Lorenz did coming in, and in fact that was a drive-through penalty there. Let me correct myself, he had a drive-through penalty, he had to serve that, and then he's made his way back out. He's going to have to come into the pits again surely at that rate, unless he's going to have to do a lot of fuel saving. Laurie Owens there having a very inventive way of coming out the pit lane, unfortunately, due to his spin. And well, meanwhile, we'll come back to Max Chambers, who's now definitely into third place here on the road. But whereas strategically, I don't think so, because Benjamin Massey all behind him. He has made a second pit stop, unless Chambers thinks he can go the distance. But what's that? The lap 7 pit stop to go to the wet tyre. So there's a lot of strategy being involved here, ladies and gentlemen. It is quite the muddle. We are figuring our way through it at the moment with 8.5 minutes left. But if anybody who pitted on lap 7 to go from slicks to wet can get to the end right now, they are going to have made up a lot of time. They will have surprised those who start on the wet, because they'll essentially strike back in some degree. Of course, perhaps the biggest surprise of them all, Max Wheeler going from the wets to the dries, and in the wrong call. And well, his race all the way down in 34th place right now. Here is the man we're talking about as he makes his way onwards. But as he makes his way and has a brief cameo on screen, we then look back to Chambers versus Massey. And as they come through turn at number 4, well, right now, Chambers just keeping his head down there and knowing the car in front of him is going to be a Gazix Racing Team car. That's the car there of, I believe, Jan Lintz. And we're almost a lap down at this point, and he can use that Corvette to give him a little bit of a draft on some of the straights, depending on where he catches it, whether Lintz decides to let him go or not. In turn, that will keep him safe from Massey for now. It'll help him fuel save as well. I think Benjamin Massey has got other ideas here as we do jump on board with the 4th place runner overall and in the pro class. Right now, he wants that podium spot back, and I think he wants to get it done on the circuit. He does not want to risk what would be the opportunity to lose it, just simply because Chambers does go all the way to the end and somehow manage to stretch that fuel tank far enough. The lap times are definitely coming down at the moment. We're seeing that dry line forming. We've still got plenty of spray out there. We do have a couple of drivers on the slick tyre, including Kai Hitchler and Jan Lintz, and Lintz is in front of this group. And in fact, the lap times for Jan Lintz at the moment, where are they? He did go onto the slick tyre back on lap 23. He has had a couple of mistakes since then, so we're just waiting to find out what his lap will be. His last lap, of course, was blighted by a major error, so that's a bit of an explanatory moment there. As meanwhile, Benjamin Massey just stays queuing in behind Chambers. Time is running out in this race as Lintz is going to go high, but as he does so, he goes onto a very wet line, and that's not going to help his tyre temperatures whatsoever. That's actually going to probably overcool the slick tyre, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to start to lose some grip there as he comes onto the flat. But here they go, past the pit lane entry. Does Chambers come in? No, he does not. So Massey's going to go high and try and go round the outside here in towards turn number 1. He's going to be able to get this 3rd place in the pro class. Here they go onto the brakes, and well, 2 wide they enter. Chambers there, just squeezing ahead. Massey goes to the switch back, but Chambers gets it parked in the apex, just about, and Massey gets a better run, but now going on the attack as they go on towards what will be turn number 4. But as they do, well, right now, no change between them. Meanwhile, Kai Hitchler camera has found his way past Brian Beardsworth, so it means that your slick runners moving up the order into 25th place. Here they are, in fact, just up the road. He's made that change at turn number 4, and well, can he find any more places out? There was 6 minutes left on the clock. And the Leopard Esports driver definitely doing a lot of work here right now to move forward. And in that battle between Gareth Newton and Mark Kent for the club lead, let's not forget about it. Kent looking up the inside here on those fresh wet tyres. Newton meanwhile just holding his line, but Kent goes all in here. He says, I see the doors open and I'm going to put my foot in it. He almost goes a bit too deep, but it's a big move, and Mark Kent will take the lead in the club class. Now will Newton come back in here towards turn number 4? I think Newton's got a goal in for this if he wants to, but Kent covers him off onto the inside. Does he get the traction out the corner here? He does, just about, but Newton there, of course, the Corvette having so much better ability to come out the corner. But in the BMW, Mark Kent moves forward, and that's a critical move there for Mark Kent. He's on course now. Should he be able to break away to make it 3 wins in a row in the club class of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport? But Newton, meanwhile, will try and stay with him for as long as possible. And if Newton can stay in that tow, he may yet have a chance at this. As car coming off of the road and coming back on, that's Matthew Massey, your pole sitter in club, who now brings it back on. And a lot of you love that move from Mark Kent there. Very late call to look up the inside, but understandably the door was open and he went all in. And in the end, Newton had no response. Further back, Davidus Loinonis up the inside of Philip Ansell and going for 8th place there in the pro category. And both these drivers carrying on right now, and I think they feel as though they can get in on the fuel tanks they've got. Well, if so, it's definitely going to be a long way in terms of that fuel, and the switch back and forth here is going to be a big factor. And we're going to see Ansell go high here, looking around the outside onto the flat, all the way down in towards that braking zone. Well, what's the game plan going to be here? Does Loinonis fight this? And the answer is no. He backs off, and I think they're thinking about the run towards turn number 1 instead. But I can tell you that Mark Kent right now pulling away from Gareth Newton, and Newton just falling back a little bit more as they head onwards. Meanwhile, we look to Max Chambers. Chambers still holding on. I can see ZH7747 there, the YouTube chat, cheering him on, and Chambers flashes headlights here with 4 minutes to go. He wants every car in front of him out the way as quickly as possible here. He's under a lot of pressure for Benjamin Massey. Remember, Chambers pitted on lap 7. He has not made a second stop. He is right now, I think, trying to run the fuel tank to the very end, hoping it's going to be enough. Benjamin Massey took the extra fuel and also went with it. What was an attack onto these positions, and right now the 353 driver is still trying to find that final spot on the podium, and it would be a first podium in pro of the season for Benjamin Massey, your season 1 interclass champion, of course in the new name and convention. It used to be known as the pro class, but Benjamin Massey right now wants that podium, and well, he's been very far away from it so far this season, but he's so close to it now. If only he can make a move. But he's got this lap, plus most likely another 2 to go, because Wilson Liu, your leader, goes on to another one. He only pitted once. Crystal Tabar had to pit twice, and right now Wilson Liu and carrying on here, and he's been able to make this fuel tank go long, and I can understand right now We Pay 300 Esports chewed it in from the other side of the globe, and indeed the team will be absolutely, well, they'll be trying to keep awake there because it's the very hours of the morning in China, but Liu right now looking so quick out there and in control, and well, can he just keep this under control for a little bit longer? But back to Massey versus Chambers for the 3rd place spot on the pro podium, and here comes Massey. He's getting very close here before they go across the timing line. 2 more to go. Massey going high, Chambers going low. Chambers right now making sure he makes Massey go as wide as humanly possible, and Massey trying to go all the way around the outside. He just has to take it very carefully. He doesn't go any wider than that as he touched the white line, and the car will go sideways, but Massey can't find a way in, and we ride aboard here as he battles with the car, plus also his rival coming from 3 in towards 4, and Massey right now just cannot find the final 5% he needs to clear the Concord Motorsport car. And Chambers digging in as much as humanly possible here as they power the way onwards. Battles further back. We have had Bruno Key found his way past Nigel Jaden Innes, although Innes is trying to come back at him, and that will be, I believe, for 6th place in the club class. We're keeping an eye on that every so often, but right now the big battles are right towards the front of the field in our classes, and Massey here looking all over the back of Chambers. Chambers has definitely not got any grip there, and well, he's just simply trying to make sure the car does not go astray, whereas Massey's got it all to play for, plus also a bit more fuel in the car. I think he's got the confidence that comes with it. Philip Ansell and Davidus Loinonis are still fighting each other as well. Here they are on the back of Gareth Newton, your 2nd place club runner right now, and this is for overall position. And well, I could understand right now if Newton's feeling a bit nervous about this, but still we can see Loinonis just staying behind. But back to Chambers we go, ladies and gents. We have got a leader. Wilson Liu, I believe, is on to our final lap. He just crossed the timeline, but here comes Massey looking up the inside into the chicane. It's a bluff. He does not go all in for it. He throws the dummy, and right now Chambers here. Can he get a good exit out the corner? He gets the throttle down here and rolling his way onwards. And right now the Concord Motorsport drive, it's the battle of 2 screaming 9,000 RPM, flat 6 engines. They make the way up into the banking, and Massey there closer and closer. He moves forward little by little, and right now objects get bigger and bigger in our rear view camera, and here he goes to the outside once again onto the flat, but he's done this multiple times before. What's difference this time? Well, the difference is he's got closer sooner as they head side by side across the timing line. Onto their final lap we go, and as they make the way up towards turn 1, Massey's looking around the outside. Chambers really getting his elbows out, but Massey is going to try and scoop all the way around the outside. He gets the nose ahead, he gets the car ahead, but does he go too deep? He does. He runs wide, and Chambers holds on for a little bit longer. He holds on at 1 more time into turn 1, but he's still got the rest of the lap to go. From them we look back to Wilson Liu. Here he is, your leader right now, making his way on around the banking of turn number 8. and he's got the bus stop chicane plus the final run to go. If this is the final lap, we don't quite have confirmation. I think we may actually have another lap, ladies and gents, but don't quote me on it. We are waiting to see where that checkered flag is going to be declared, because now that I look, I don't see the white flag waving anymore. I think I've mistaken it for it's a bit of sunshine. But as we do see Philip Ansell still being chased by Devilos Lorinones, are there any other battles out there to note? Well, the answer is not truly no. I think right now it's battles for overall position. But as all of our drivers come through, well, it's definitely been a race of survival here, and a few drivers, I think, just looking at their fuel tanks and hoping that the gauge stays high, as Lorinones looking one way, then the other. But meanwhile, we must look back to this man, because he makes his way onto the flat tiers. We've had a disqualification for Lorinones for instant points. Well, it's the 0 clock, and it does mean it's a checker flag. And for Wilson Liu, he takes his first win of the season. He survives in the wet at Daytona for WePay 300 Esports. He's your pro and overall winner. But as he comes on through, meanwhile, just back there, you see Nathan Healy take 4th in the club class. And meanwhile, what about Christophe Dubois? Well, I think he felt as though he had it all sealed and done today. That second pit stop, however, to put in the fuel was the undoing, but he will take his best result of the season after a drive-through penalty as well. It's second for Christophe Dubois, but who is going to be third? Well, here they come around the final banking, and the Concord Motorsport driver right now, Max Chambers. He's done everything to earn this. He's done everything right. And meanwhile, Benjamin Massey tries to go low. He stays right low to the line, but Chambers goes above all. There's contact to the rear of the car, and Chambers goes sliding across the line, and then Chambers takes it. Massey puts the brakes on. 90's made contact, and what a sportsman-like ending there. Massey making sure he did not gain by tapping the rear of Chambers. Chambers will be third. Olivia Grenier comes on through to take his first inter-win of the season, 5th place. Well done to him for live sim racing, just ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva. And then it will be Isaac Fairway who comes across the line in 7th place. What a recovery. Mark Halsbear takes 2nd place in the interclass ahead of Tim Perry. John Lubret, meanwhile, will come through just behind Perry, who finishes in that 9th place spot, and Lubret completes the inter-podium as he comes on through. And then it will be a 3rd win in a row, and for the season, for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports Club driver Mark Kent. What a drive from him as he crossed the line ahead of Philip Ansell by 2.7 seconds. And Gareth Newton, he returns to his 2nd place ways. The GPX Sport Vertex tried gamble by staying on the same wet tyres. He couldn't quite hold off Mark Kent, but he definitely took that finishing position. But he's still got a few more drives to come. John Shamman, 4th place there in the interclass, ahead of Victor Chamorro, who will just hold off Renee Mouth at 15th place overall. And Andrew Fellows will be your last lead lap finisher there, taking his first podium of the season in the club class for 3rd place in club for GPX Simsport Onyx in the 144. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what an end to the race. And, well, you could not make up the entirety of this race. Indeed, right now, I can tell you one thing. If you did predict it was going to go like that, you better go get a lottery ticket, because you'd be able to predict the numbers all the way from now to the rest of your life. That was a race that had a little bit of everything, but we do just take a look back at the battle between Max Chambers and Benjamin Massey at the very end there, ladies and gentlemen, and this was sportsmanship at its finest. So we get the onboard here for Massey, and just listening, you'll hear that. Well, there's the tapping facts. Don't listen in. And went in, Massey tapped away and immediately putting the brakes on. Can we get a bit of an earlier view of that to show you? And I think we can. So we're going to go back a bit in time, and this was Massey chasing him. So we're going to get the entirety of the final half of the lap as they made the way out of turn number 7 on board with Benjamin Massey. Now, as you can see here, catch up in the slipstream. This was to be expected, but Chambers got a really good run out of turn number 7. In fact, that was an exceptionally good run, given the gap. This goes to show you how good Massey was through the chicane. He's going to make his way through the corners here as he does so, and as he rolls his way through, you can see Chambers really struggling at this point. I think trying to back off there to save some fuel, but also to see if he can just cause Massey to have to back off, but it didn't work. Massey timed it to perfection, and now just listening, you're going to hear the contact, and then you're going to hear that Massey tries to stop the car as quickly as possible, not to benefit. And you can see, whilst it's obscured there slightly by the safety harness, he did drop all the way down to 2nd gear at the finish line. And Benjamin Massey, to be fair, yes, there was contact, but I'm sure Max Chambers is going to get out of that car afterwards. And the first thing he'd do, well, if they were in the same route together, he would give what would be Benjamin Massey the biggest hug in the world for the fact that is racing respect between two drivers. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to go slightly there so you could hear the fact he completely dropped down the gearbox as much as he could and put the brakes on. But what ends the race there, and what a series of battles up and down the field, and absolutely packed Daytona. And with that, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. Goodness me. I'm not going to be sleeping for a while on this one, ladies and gents. This one's going to live on my mind, but in a good way, I should say. I love my GT racing. I can tell you one thing. It's been an absolute epic today. Wilson Liu, your eyes do not deceive you. The WePay 300 esports driver, Mr. Second Place, typically in the pro class, finally takes his first overall and pro win of the season for WePay 300 esports by 23.6 seconds in over Christophe Dubois. But Christophe Dubois as well, what a way to redeem himself. Drive-through penalty after that huge incident at VIR, qualified in 5th place overall, took the drive-through penalty straight away, but made sure to start on a wet and gambled, and the gamble paid off. The only thing that did not pay off, unfortunately, was the fact that in the end, when he came into the pits with what was that splash and dash plus the drive-through penalty, it compromised him. But still, if he had not had to have that drive-through penalty, I think Dubois would have run away with this one. Still, the live sim racing driver, second ahead of Max Chambers for Concord Motorsport, who held on valiantly in the end, and Benjamin Massey. Yes, there was contact between the two of them, but Massey not benefited from it and making sure that the right man, in his opinion, took the 3rd place. So the iRacing Motorsport driver settled for 4th, with Olivier Granier taking on home at 5th place there for what was overall, but most importantly, his first into-win the season. Live sim racing having a huge result today, and Pedro Luis da Silva just behind there in 6th place at the close. Isaac Farewell, what a redemption drive for him as well, going all the way through the field after the misery of Bathurst and missing VAR. Well, the Cuda Motorsport driver there definitely putting off a fantastic coup to make his way to 7th, head of Mark Calsbear, runner-up once again in the Interclass, and I think that's going to become a running streak now for Calsbear for Cuda Academy. But to be fair, given how the race started and the pandemonium of coming into the pit lane, I think he'll be grateful to be second in the Interclass in reality. Tim Perry in the fray for Altitude 3M Esports, a gamble to go to the fray, but it seemed to pay off. He almost finished inside was the top 5 of the pro class, but still taking what was that 9th place overall ahead of John Ludbrook, who completed the interpodium in 10th place there for GPX SimSport Xenon. That was the first 6 seconds back to Mark Kent, who was your club winner, making it 3 in a row, and with 11th place, best of the rest for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, 3 seconds ahead there of Philip Ansell. The Cuda Motorsport driver made progress, but he found himself right in the thick of the fight with Davidus Lorenonis, although contact between the two of them seemed to have given Lorenonis enough penalty points, or instant points I should say, to be given a disqualification penalty, and that's why he's finished in 18th. But between the two of them, Gareth Lutonet in 13th place, second in the club class. GPX SimSport Vertex could not quite take their first win, but another second place. He'll be right up there in the standings. And then Jordan Shamblin at 14th for Concord Motorsport, ahead of Victor Chamorro. Their battle for full place in the Interclass was absolutely legendary, and in the end, the 248 driver getting the upper hand. And then did see in 16th place, none other than what was Rene Maurer, and then it was Andrew Fellows in 17th, ahead of Davidus Lorenonis, and the SLB Motorsport by Lint Vega driver was the first to be a lap down, given his disqualification from the lead lap. Ryan Casti and Flavian Tiffrey completed your top 20, and outside that top 20, also let down Nathan Healy at 1 point potential on course for what could have been a 1-2 once again in the club class. It didn't quite work out, but he still did take home a considerable 4th place in class of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. David Payne, a frustrated day for him for Cuda Academy. Indeed, the frustration seems to be bubbling at the moment, but hopefully it'll boil away next time, and Vidas Andruskevicius wasn't too far behind. Guy Hitchler and Mikhail Abasek completed your top 25, with Gazek's for racing teams Jan Lintz and Christian Ablasser behind in 26th and 27th. Then we did see your trio of club drivers of Brian Beardsworth, Bruno Key and Jaden Innes completed your top 30. Mark Hutchinson was 31st ahead of Ivan Hopka, and then we did see Max Wheeler there with that gamble to the slick time. When he had it all in control, he went to the slick way too soon, unfortunately paying the price of freewheeler racing, but he was ahead of Matthew Massey at the finish line, and it was 2 laps down to Kevin Smith and also Quanley 2. 3 laps down, we saw Marcus Clayton and Chad Henson reach the finish line ahead of Gianluca Rospo. In the end, took 39th place and finished on the road. And then we did see your non-finishers classified for this race, ladies and gentlemen, starting with John Beckett in 40th place. And the theme continued through there for Sammy Alex, Clyde Vella, Sebastian Schwertfeger, Oliver Kemp, Gavin Corby, Dwayne Hoffman, Max Dean, Aurimas Zilinskas, Mikhail Salkuni, and sadly a non-start there for Taos Vosberg. But then to the class finish positions, because this is where the points are paid and made. And in pro, Wilson Liu, your winner. First time winner for this season for WePay 300 Esports, ahead of Christophe Dubois, runner-up for live sim racing. It was then a further 17 seconds or so back to Max Chambers, who held on at the end versus Benjamin Massey. And Massey just missed out on the podium, but getting his best result of the season. Same for Chambers, it can be said. And Pedro Luis da Silva making it another top 5 there, for 8 seconds behind, but 10 seconds ahead of Isaac Fairweather for Cuda Motorsport. Tim Perry, 7th there, but was able to steer clear of Philip Ansell, who struggled to make his way back up through the order with the fight he had to put on. And we did see Rene Maurer in 9th place there for Leopard Esports. And then it was in 10th place, a lap down, Davidus Lorenonis disqualified from the lead lap and dropping to 10th, but still ahead of Ryan Casti, who was best of the rest. The Team Endurotech driver then followed up by Kai Hitchler, with Christian Ablasser, Mark Hutchinson and Max Wheeler completing all those who finished a lap down. And it was 3 laps down, but finished the race for Chad Henson for Turbo Rennsport. And then we did sadly have the non-finish for Aurimas Zilinskas and the non-start for Talis Vosberg. Then to the interclass we go, to the second tier of our drivers, and here we can see Olivier Granier, a maiden win of the season for live sim racing driver, and what a day to do it, by 12 seconds over Mark Calsbear, who came charging back through the field after the difficulties of transition from the slick to the wet, but indeed he got it right in the end, and the Kudo Academy driver continues his podium streak. John Ludbrook third there for GPX SimSport Xenon. I do believe that's his first podium of the season, unless I'm mistaken, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. The best part of 20 seconds ahead of Jordan Shamlin for Concord Motorsport, who unfortunately could not continue the podium streak today. We saw Victor Chabot fight hard with Shamlin, but lose out towards the end, and the Enosis Esports Privateer completed the top 5. And there was a lap down for Lavian Tiefri, who definitely went under the radar, but scored a considerable 6th place. He was ahead of David Payne, with Vidas Andruskevicius finishing behind the Kudo Academy driver for SRP Motorsport. And there was Mikhail Abasek and Jan Lintz completing the class top 10. We did see Kevin Smith finish 2 laps down there for Rhino Esports Edge Overlays, a bit of a challenge into his day, but he was ahead of Quanley 2 at the line for We Pay 300 Esports. And then we did see, whilst he did finish on the road, unfortunately he did not complete the 75% race distance, I believe, with the 9 laps down, so therefore it will be considered a non-finish for Sammy Alex. And we did see non-finishes as well for Clyde Villa and Sebastian Schwertfeger, and we also did see the retirement for Oliver Kemp. Then coming to the club class, last but by no means least, and here we can see 3 wins in a row for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports, Mark Kent. And right now, it wasn't looking that straightforward, but in the end, he got it right to the strategy, and the team will be absolutely proud to have nailed it here today. Although they did have to fight the way past Gareth Newton right towards the end, but Newton on the much older wet tyres, well, he just didn't quite have the grip, and Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport knew it, and Kent was able to capitalise on it. Still, the GPX SimSport Vertex driver taking 2nd place there, returning to the podium immediately ahead of Andrew Fellows, who takes his maiden podium of the season for GPX SimSport Onyx, and he was the best part of 20 seconds behind, but still as classified a lap ahead of Nathan Healy for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, who missed the opportunity to make it a double podium for the team today. But still, he was ahead of Brian Beardsworth, the GPX SimSport Onyx outfit, making sure they didn't have a double podium either, and Bruno Key, 6th place there for We Pay 300 Esports, returns to the grid and had a fun day in the office, no doubt about it, and scoring some considerable points. Jaden Innes, what does he have to do to take a podium, I hear you ask? We don't know, and he won't know after today, but still, the first podium awaits for him for Kuda Motorsport, ahead of Ivan Halpko, who finished 8th. Then we did see Matthew Massey and Marcus Clayton completing your top 10. Behind Clayton, who was in the end 3 laps down as classified, it was then a further lap down to Gianluca Rospo as best of the rest for Deep Motorsports. And then we did have your classified non-finishers of John Becker, Gavin Corby, Dwayne Hoffman, Max Dean, and Mikhail Salcuni. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that concludes all of our racing action here from the Daytona International Speedway today. But it does not quite conclude our broadcast, because coming up in approximately 5 minutes' time, we're going to be bringing you some post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. I'm sure they've got plenty to say about the changes today at Daytona, so let's not keep them waiting. We'll be back as soon as we can for our post-round interviews, and we will see you all very shortly. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the L23M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the 2 of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the 2 Ford, for the Ford of the Corvettes, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high. He decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this for the lead. Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind, Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner, Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazix Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here, although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only one car is between him and an opportunity of victory here, which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back and him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be 2 wide with him, but 2 wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes on the switchback there. 9 has no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gents, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And we're going to kick off by jumping straight to the club class. And we're going to speak to our now 3-in-a-row winner from club. It is none other than Mark Kent. Mark, good evening to you. And well, what a day it's been. I bet you can't believe it's 3 in a row.
Mate, first of all, evening. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I can't believe it. Unbelievable.
Well, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, qualifying firstly, a challenging qualifying session, but we saw you take 4th in class. But I suspect you're probably more focused on the race rather than thinking about where you've qualified.
Yeah, quali was tough. That was tough conditions for quali. Trying to get the most out of the car in those conditions is always difficult. And I think towards the end, where it dried up, I think some of the guys just managed to find a little bit extra than I could, to be honest with you. So yeah, but I was happy with 4th. Yeah, and it led into a good race. So yeah, absolutely happy.
Well, happy with 4th and then into the race. Now, we did see you, I believe, which tyre did you start on? Was it the slick tyre you started on?
No, started on wets.
Started on the wet tyre there, and something tells me that was a call by the whole team.
Yes, it was. It was. We actually waited about as long as we could before gridding to check the timings and the conditions, and decided on wets. Yeah, which appeared to be the right call because I feel like a lot of people came in from slicks to go on to wets quite early on, which allowed us to move quite far up the grid. Actually, I think.
Now, of course, we did see the absolute chaos play out when the rain did come, and all the slick runners tried to brave it initially, and then they were forced to come in because of the challenges. But for yourself at that point, I bet there must have been a bit of a small smile on your face thinking, we were right to invest in the wet tyres. Look at us go. We're all the way to the front of the field.
Yeah, I feel bad for saying it, but yes, there was a wry smile on my face. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, we got the strategy right on this one. And it enabled us to have a really, really good race. just feel for Dwayne, who had some internet troubles tonight and unfortunately had to drop out. And yeah, but thankfully he stayed around to help with our pit strategy and stuff towards the end. So even then, you know, him staying behind was really good for us.
Well, an absolutely brilliant strategic call, although, like you say, unfortunate for Dwayne. But as the race did go on, of course, and that pit stop for all the slick runners played out, we saw you settle down. And at some points as well, at one point we did have our top 3 overall, which was essentially our inter leader, then yourself, then our pro leader. I mean, was there a part of you saying, how far can I go in this race? Or did you start to perhaps think to yourself, you know what, focus on the club win, don't think about getting greedy?
It was, yes. I mean, I was very surprised to be that far up, even with all of the, you know, the shenanigans going on and the strategy calls that people had made. But you always want to stay there, don't you? It's a race driver's mentality to get as far as they can. I had to force myself to allow the quicker guys through, because, as you say, the class win was the important thing. But yeah, it would have been nice to get that overall podium, wouldn't it?
Oh, indeed. But still, you kept your head down and to the ground. And as the race went into its concluding part, we did see a bit of a surprise, which was in the form of Gareth Newton coming out ahead of you out of the pit stop. Were you expecting that?
No, I wasn't actually. We didn't see it coming on the strategy. I don't know what he did, whether he had an early pit or was involved in some of the incidents at the start, and that enabled him to make a strategy call. I don't think he took new tyres, which I think meant that I could catch him. I did take tyres on the stop. But yeah, fair play to him. I mean, great call from him to get that far up, and managed to hold on to, I think, a podium in the end, wasn't it, for him?
Oh, indeed, he was. He was able to hold on to that second place after you'd passed him. But obviously, we did see you have to battle your way through. I mean, we saw you have to really take your time with that move. Were you perhaps worried, oh, I'm going to hit a patch of standing water? Or perhaps even thinking to yourself, you know what, I'll just drag past him because the BMW looks so strong?
It was mostly conditions, actually. I knew I had the better tyres, but at that point, with the drying track, they were starting to go off. So it was a case of pick my moment and make sure that I got it right. I didn't want to have an incident with him. I didn't want to ruin his race. He deserved that from his strategy call. So yeah, I was happy with the move. I think he may have facilitated it a little bit as well, to be fair to him. But yeah, it was mostly just a careful, considerate move, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, a careful, considerate move, and that enabled you to take your 3rd win of the season. You're on a roll right now, and this is going to move you right towards the top of the club championship and ends the first half of the season on a high. You must be thinking to yourself right now that you're becoming unstoppable.
I don't want to become quite that kind of person, but it's a nice role to be on. I know we've got Spa coming up. I'm not great at Spa, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the BMW at the moment. It's performing really well. So yeah, I'm a happy chappy, honestly.
Well, a very happy chappy. And next time out, we do make our way to none other than the wonderful circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. What can we expect from you in Belgium?
Well, like I say, I'm not great at Spa. I think it's a 90-minute race as well, so it's going to be a strategy race, which I think, as a group, as a team, we're quite strong at. But in terms of my own pace, I don't know. I would hope for maybe a top 5 in class. I'm not going to say any more than that because, like I say, I'm not great at Spa at all. It's one of my weak tracks.
Oh, fair play. Well, setting your expectations, and we look forward to seeing whether you can surpass them. And just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yeah, the lads, especially Dwayne. He's had a rough night with his technical issues. And I know Nathan is a little disappointed with not being on the podium tonight. But they're an excellent bunch, all of them, the whole team. And I'd like to also thank our sponsors, and SRI for putting this league on, because it's fantastic and I'm having a blast, honestly. So yeah, thanks guys.
Well, we're having a blast having the full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team on the grid. Yourself included, Mark. You've been incredible today, delivering a brilliant drive from 4th to 1st. And then the gamble on the wet tyre at the start paid off. We look forward to seeing whether you can continue your championship momentum when we do head to Spa-Francorchamps in a week's time. Even if it may not be a win, we'll wait to see what you can do there. But until then, savour the trio of wins in a row and have a lovely rest of your evening.
Yep, thank you, Paul. I'm going to take my inhaler. Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you.
And just to clarify there, ladies and gents, and we brought a Mark in first in the fact that he is, as you may have heard there with the inhaler, a asthmatic and, well, I do believe a bit out of breath at the moment with regards to the exertions today, and, well, just taking some time there and stay easy. But very grateful we could have Mark join us that brief moment. And the full tour virtual motorsport driver really talking about how happy he has been with the result today and just keeping it a calm and considerate race there, but also calm and considerate battling between himself and Gareth Newton towards the very end of the race. But the strategy is what paid off, and he was very grateful to the team's effort. Mentioned there the fact that it is a team effort at Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. I'm feeling a bit sorry for both Dwayne for his retirement early on and also for the slight floundering in the result for Nathan Healy, who couldn't quite make it a double podium. But nonetheless, he carries on. He heads to Spa-Francorchamps, knowing that right now he's definitely got momentum on his side, but not expecting a win there, targeting the top 5. We'll have to wait and see how he gets on at one of his bogey circuits and whether he can perhaps undo expectations and go and rise even higher. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our next interview. We'll be back very shortly for our second person in the interview room. And so, ladies and gents, we now make our way to the Pro class. And joining me in the interview room is none other than Benjamin Massey. Ben, good evening to you. And what a day you've had. 32nd in qualifying, 17th in Pro. And by the end of it, 4th overall and almost on the podium, but a bit of contact between yourself and Max Chambers, but you did the gentleman thing, which was made sure you didn't benefit at the very end. I mean, let's put the sportsmanship part aside for the moment, because that in itself is a story. You must be sat there thinking to yourself, how on earth did I get here?
Yeah, I mean, because you say about the position in quali, but because I gridded with one setup and wanted to change to another one, I started from the pit lane as well. And I think because of the car numbers being 300 and 53, I think you start right at the back of the pit lane as well, because I think it's just gridded the same as like an official with rating, with the car number. So really I lost like another 20 seconds probably, maybe more, based on compared to where I started. But yeah, best result I've ever had in, well, that's RE League at all, and both of the GTE leagues season so far. And yeah, almost a P3. I fueled a bit too much. I fueled for the extra lap because I wasn't sure if somebody was going to come out in front and make it the extra lap who had already pitted. But it went down the lap and that would have made the difference, I think, for P3. But yeah, great result.
Oh, a huge result. And with regards to qualifying, what exactly went wrong?
Yeah, because the track went, well, to dry tyres pace right at the end, like in the last, 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And I just messed up on the dry runs that I had. I was on for a top 10, maybe like a top 8, just because I would have managed to sneak one in, but I just spun on both the laps. So, yeah.
Well, it went wrong in qualifying, and after starting from the pit lane, I mean, the story of you coming through the field is one to behold. I mean, what tyre did you start on? Just remind me.
Yeah, so I was on a full wet setup, but just changed the wing to 1 degree, because I didn't think it was going to go that wet, because I think it was light rain. Maybe it might have been moderate, but not heavy enough to really need that wing if you've got the AOBs and stuff. Saving you from oversteer and stuff, and from it being too loose, like how you would want on a aggressive Daytona setup usually. So it kind of was a bit of a gamble, but because the track stayed wet enough, I didn't have to change tyres, which obviously with GTE you lose quite a bit of time. I think 7 seconds per tyre. in the pit lane. I just had to pit for fuel, so I get like a 40-second pit lane time. But yeah, just stayed on wets throughout the whole thing.
I see. Well, the right call there with regards to the tyre, and we were speaking to Mark Kent only months ago, and we asked him how he felt when the rain did arrive. Did you, in a way, feel as though once the rain arrived, did you have an inkling of how many drives were perhaps on the slick tyre, or did you have a bit of a grin on your face when you saw Sonny, all these places were just coming to you?
Well, I've got a bit of an advantage because I just use caps for the overlay so I can see who's on what tyre. But only updates, I think, when they cross the line again, so I couldn't quite use it as an advantage to see if they would switch to the dries, because I had one lap extra stint over some of the guys in front. But yeah, I saw that. Well, I knew on the schedule it would rain like 15 minutes in, but I think it actually started a bit before, maybe like 10 minutes in, it started raining. And I wasn't that far off the pace because the track state just carried over from quali and warm up and everything. So yeah, I had the advantage because I didn't have to change the tyres, and because of the low wing, it didn't really mess me up that much being on kind of the wrong tyre at the start. So yeah, the positions came quite fast really. It was nice to pass.
Oh, 100%. And all those positions coming to you very quickly. And then as we saw the race get deeper and deeper and we saw the circuit start to dry up, the pace only got quicker and you were picking off pro drivers left, right and centre. But there's one driver you couldn't find your way easily past, Max Chambers. I mean, he put up quite the fight.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him, obviously, and, I'd like to apologise on the broadcast. I mean, I did it in the sim and in the Discord, but I'd also like to say it, for everyone to hear. But just apologise to him for hitting him. Obviously, I braked as hard as you could in the wet with no ABS, and he did get the position back, which I'm glad, because I wouldn't have felt right, taking P3 like that. But yeah, it was a really nice battle for the few laps before. I had the run on this, into the final lap, but I just went too deep into the corner. I still could have had it, but I just was too close to him and didn't set up the exit at the bus stop quite like I should have. But I'm still happy with a P4. Yeah, congrats to him for the P3.
Well, to be fair, whilst it may not have been a podium, you came very close and you almost set it up to perfection. Most critically, however, your best result of the season as we wrap up the first half of the championship and we now head to Spa-Francorchamps in a week's time. Can we expect you to be right back up there once again with perhaps the risk of more mixed conditions next round?
Yeah, I think, now that I've got a PC, thanks to a couple of the guys at DNR, they didn't give me the PC, but they helped me with some of the parts. I can actually run the rain now, because before I'd get like 30 or 40 frames, even on just a single 1080p monitor, so it was not really ideal. I kind of just ignored racing in the rain, because, racing at that frame rate is not ideal. And it's not like I was on high settings either. But yeah, I'm more excited to race in the rain now, because I can actually run it reasonably well. And this is kind of a good PC test, because Daytona is already fairly demanding, and then with the rain on top, and it ran fine. So yeah, hopefully it can carry that over to Spa. Just need to learn the wet lines.
Oh, fantastic. We look forward to seeing you take to the fight once again at Spa-Francorchamps. But just before we do let you go, Ben, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention to or a shout out beyond, of course, the shout outs you already given?
Yeah, well, just again to Max and who was it I was fighting with? I just had to here. Well, just everyone I was fighting with in the race, who was respectful. And apologise to anybody that I hit. It's not intentional, just with the rain and stuff. If you hit wet patch, you don't have ABS to save you as well. And thanks to the guys at DNR, Daniel Newman Racing. I got a GPU and a PSU from them. Just I don't have any words for that. It's just awesome. And just thanks to the team as well, with Matt, Justin, and Mike. With all the support, and we're working with Mike in the race too, based on strategy and stuff, and in quali. So yeah, and for you for the broadcast, and everyone at SRI for working really hard behind the scenes.
Well, Ben, I'm sure all of them will appreciate the shout out, and we're very grateful to have yourself on the grid, no doubt about it. It's so great you can race in the wet weather, and the fact that Daniel Newman Racing were able to help you bring that PC to life, because it wouldn't be the same without you. well done on the 4th place day. Not quite the podium, but I'm sure it's going to come at some point, and we look forward to the day when it does. But until then, well done your results day, and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too. Have a great evening. Thanks.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Benjamin Massey, your pro driver for Inox Motorsport, who today completely turned around a difficult qualifying session into an absolutely incredible drive through the field. And talking out there the fact that starting from the pit lane and from the very back of the pit lane, given where his garage was, and in the end having to really make up the time. But starting on the wet tyre, and in the end going from wet to wet set, it all worked out a treat for him very nicely, well, really getting to grips with the conditions. But had to gradually bat his way up through the field, and then talking about the fact that as soon as that contact had happened between himself and Max Chambers right at the end, he did everything he could safely to slow the car down should not benefit, and he was very grateful for the fact he did not take that 3rd place at the end. And well, to be fair to Ben, he's one of the fairest racers you can have out there, but he's such a competitive driver as well, and should we see similar conditions at Spa-Francorchamps, I reckon that first podium will finally come his way. But we'll have to wait and see. He's keeping his head down into the ground, like a lot of drivers are. And speaking of keeping our head down, we better get down to business because we've got another interview coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've spoken to one of the drivers in the club class, and we're going to come back to the club class because we're going to now be catching up with Bruno Key as he joins me in the interview room. Bruno, good morning to you, and what a challenging day today in these conditions. It all looked so good in qualifying, but then in the race, it just seemed to be that bit more difficult.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, for today's race, I missed a lot of run, but back to this race. For the race start, I missed because for the tires choice, I thinking I can use the drag tire for the first for the early laps, and but after the 2 laps, I saw the raining is coming, so I think for these decisions, I lost like the 20 or 30 seconds in the start because I missed the race start to the change tires. And after that, luckily for the race, because I, without any trouble, don't mistake and to the driving myself. And luckily, I can use the one stop to do the race and finish the P6. It's okay. It's okay for me because I have a long time no race.
Oh, indeed. We've missed seeing you in the grid. It's so great to have you back today. I mean, I can tell you one thing. It's not quite the same when we don't get to see your number 116 BMW out there. So, with it been quite some time since you've raced, what has been your focus to get yourself up to speed or to feel more confident in the car, particularly in such difficult conditions?
Yeah, for these conditions, this is my first time to driving GTE in the raining, and this is for the Daytona, and I have a more challenge in the banking. I focus on the speed. Then I realized for the no downforce in the road course, the front, and so I saw the other people's very very close in the road course, and to the banking I can to the fight back for the positions. So this is the classic Daytona things, and for these conditions we can do more a great battle with others. It's the very very good things, and I'm really enjoying for this.
Well, you definitely got to grips those conditions quite well, and looks like you had a lot of fun out there. And you battled your way up the field very gradually, making some key overtakes. We got to see you, in particular, fight quite a bit with the likes of, say, Jaden Innes and also Matthew Massey. You looked quick in the BMW, making those moves.
Yeah, for the race, I I thinking it's I need to battle with them to do the maybe top 5 or the top 6 to get the po point. Yes, and but for the race we know it's the very difficult, and for the race we have a very clear battle with others to give each others to the space, and it's very funny, and I really to enjoy with them, and maybe one time I can to get to the podium, but for today's race it's enough for this race. I'm very happy to finish the race and to get the podium, to get the points. Yeah.
Oh, well, we're very happy to see you get the points as well. You drove absolutely brilliantly, and I'm sure a podium is going to come at some point. And next up, of course, we do have the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. How are you feeling for the Belgian circuit?
For my work things, I might be cannot do the Spa things. I might be can back to the Watkins Glen and for the Interlagos GP. I will pretty sure I can to prepare for these 2 races and to do more things like today's. And I really enjoy for this for in the rainy and to the dry like these conditions. It's more challenging, but I'm really enjoying that, and I hope for the next races I can do more things with others, maybe with Andrew, because Andrew get a podium where I have very good battles with him for the last season. Maybe this season we can do more.
Oh, well, we'll definitely miss seeing you in Belgium in a week's time. But when we do see you back at Watkins Glen and Interlagos, I'll tell you one thing, the whole field's going to be very happy to see you there. And I'm sure we will get to see you go battling with Andrew Fellows again. Like you say, a great rivalry between the two of you in Season 1. And we want to see that once more. But just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yes, and I want to congratulations for my teammate Wilson. He did a very good job for today and to get the overall win. And this is for our team. It's the very good things. It's our first things to get the overall win, and I think we can get more for this season. And let's see. Thank you for the call, and thank you for the others.
I like it, Bruno. That sounds confident talk there for yourself and the team. And we look forward to seeing whether you guys at We Pay 300 can make more wins and podiums come going into the second half of the season. Well done on your performance today. It's been great to catch up with you. And we look forward to seeing you at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. But until then, do take care and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you, Paul.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Bruno Key. It's always great to catch up with him. I'm so happy we've got to see him back on the grid today after missing a couple rounds. Busy with work, but he's been doing quite a bit of travelling, as I understand it. And I do believe he even does a bit of motorsport commentary, unless I'm mistaken. But the We Pay 300 esports driver, absolutely brilliant today, and in qualifying taking that second place, but mentioned the fact that whilst all that work in qualifying was done, his indecisiveness on the start-finish, well not the start-finish, on the grid in preparation for formation lap, saw him start from the pit lane, and after they put the tyres on the car, he went going and claimed the places, picking his way through. Now it's not the result necessarily today that he's enjoyed, it's the feeling of having to go through these transitional conditions, the first time he's ever driven a GT in the wet, and having to get used to the fact that this car behaves very differently when it's in the dry versus the wet, and fight his way onwards. When in again to 6th place, but he wants to get back in amongst the fight with Andrew Fellows, who today, of course, did secure a spot on the club podium. And well, Bruno knows their rivalry from Season 1 could come back, and he wants to be on the podium as well. And also giving a shout out there to Wilson Liu, his teammate taking the win overall and in the pro class, and knowing that the team have got plenty more. They're up to the task, and we look forward to seeing what they can do in the rounds ahead. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now step away for our final interview to get underway. But we'll be right back shortly for our fourth and final interview of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our final interview of the evening, and joining me now in the interview room is the other member of that incredible battle for third place over winning pro. It's none other than Max Chambers. Max, good evening to you. What a round from yourself. 9th to 3rd, up and down the field. I mean, you're probably sat there right now thinking, what on earth just happened?
Yeah, it was definitely, definitely an interesting race from start to finish. Struggled quite a lot in qualifying, but had an incident on lap 1 in the bus stop. Hit the curb a bit hard and had a spin, and had to claw my way through through the wet, which was definitely interesting and a hell of an end, to be fair. It was a good time.
Oh, 100%. And let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about qualifying firstly. Taking that 9th in a session where the circuit was only getting quicker and quicker as the circuit started to dry up. You were looking very fast initially, but then everyone started to come through. Were you thinking to yourself at that point, so long as I get towards the top 10, I'll be okay? Or were you thinking to yourself, I've missed a trick here, I could be on pole?
So, well, the way I was trying to attack it, I knew that it was because it was wet to start with, and then pulling into the dry towards the end. I just tried to get a lot of laps in the wet to get the transition down for in the race, and try and kind of dry the track out as much as possible. When I went onto slicks, I only had about 4 push laps from going onto the slicks, and had a little incident with someone spinning in front of me, which pretty much wrote off my qualifying. So I got 1 hot lap over the line for checkered, but. I think I could have done a little bit better, but it was overall. I can't really complain with the P9 from qualifying. It's a stacked field in here.
Oh, goodness. Well, a bit of a challenging one in qualifying, but still going into the race then. 9, there was work to be done. And which tyre did you start on? Just remind me.
So I started on slicks.
Oh, good. So we can definitely ask now somebody who started on the slick how they felt with the transition to the wet, because everyone else has said that they've started on the wet tyre. So, obviously, we started off in the drying conditions, and early on, slick runners are running away, and you look quite comfortable, but then the rain came. How did you manage it?
So the initial bit was perfect. It was exactly as it was coming out of qualifying. Obviously, like I said, I had a little spin over the curb. I bounced off a curb in the bus stop, which was entirely my own doing. But as soon as the rain started coming down, watching it in practice versus in the race was a completely different world. The practice was quite light getting on, and it kind of took a while for the rain to go on. You had a good 4 or 5 laps. I think we got 2 laps of the rain starting to it being an absolute death trap. I had an attempt at a pit entry. I think I was on like lap 4 or 5 when the rain started coming down, and I completely missed the pit entry, which caused me to be a bit further off than I wanted to be. But managed to get away with it without getting a penalty for crossing the pit line or anything, which was quite lucky on my part. It was absolute chaos. As soon as the rain started coming down, it came down hard. What was meant to be light rain was definitely not light. It was a bit more on the heavy side. But it was good fun. I think it was the right call going on slicks to start with for the pace change, and it meant that I got the pit stop out of the way. It was only 1 pit stop, so it took full fuel and the pit stop in it, and it got me through to the end.
Now, of course, surviving coming into the pit lane, that was its own story, but you made it through, and then, like you say, going to the wet tyre, taking the fuel you needed, and getting to the end. And over that distance, we saw you right towards the very front, or gradually making you out towards the front, we should say, and then up into 3rd place, but there's Benjamin Massey closing rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. Benjamin was flying. I think he took a pit stop at the end. Obviously, if he didn't start on the slicks, he took a pit stop at the end to take fresh fuel, and he had pace on me for sure. The wet line and with the way that the tires were wearing meant that you couldn't really get offline too much. So I knew that I had the benefit of being able to hold a good defensive line, and we had a good few laps of battling. And I knew he definitely had the pace on me, but if I could play it right, it would have worked well for me in the end. His move was absolutely perfect. I think if he had have kept the run around the outside and held around the outside, he would have beat me hands down. But an unfortunate decision making from him made it not work out in the end. But he gave it back, which is absolutely amazing sportsmanship, and I can't complain. It was an amazing battle from start to finish with him. The battle through the pack was also amazing. Very clean driving from everyone. Given the conditions, I had absolutely no incidents with anyone at any point, and it was just a really clean race overall.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it definitely comes across. You sound as though you've had a lot of fun. It's been reflected in the result. And I do believe with this result, it is none other than what is. I just double check the record here. I believe this is, in fact, not your first podium, your second podium. So I've got that slightly wrong on the broadcast. I'll correct it here. Now, your second podium, adding to your second place from last time out. I mean, you're on a bit of a roll now.
Yeah, it's going well for me. I'm happy to be getting the positions. I know my pace isn't 100% perfect to be up in the top 3. But with the way that the races are going, there's quite a lot of incidents up at the top, people making mistakes, and I think being consistent is what it comes down to at the end.
Oh, indeed. Consistency been put to the test today. You definitely passed that test with flying colours. Next up, Spa-Francorchamps in a week's time. We've still got some question marks about the weather. How are you feeling for the trip to Belgium?
Spa's definitely not my top track. I'm not too bad there, but it should be good in the end. The mixed conditions, I think, will play into my hands again. I quite like the mixed conditions. I love the wet to dry to wet. I love the way it the transition period between the tire changes. I think I've got it down quite well, and I know how I can get back up to pace with the tire change and being on the wrong setup and stuff like that. I think it works quite well for my favour. And with it being a 90-minute race, we might see it change transition a few more times maybe with the weather, and I'd quite like to see that happen. I think it would work quite well for me.
All fair play. Well, we'll have to wait and see whether the weather does swing your way at Spa-Francorchamps, and we look forward to seeing you take on that challenge if so. But just before we do let you go, Max, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Yeah, massive shout out to Benjamin for the sportsmanship at the end, as well as my team at Concord Motorsports. Got Jordan and Oliver, massive help with setups. We've been absolutely smashing out with the setups and doing a great job of putting ourselves in the best position with that. And also to my girlfriend, Maz, for cheering me on in the chat.
Oh, she's definitely been cheering you on all the way through, and it's been a brilliant result today, Max. I think you've gained a few more fans as a result of this one. Congratulations on a heroic run to third place. Definitely a tough one, and we look forward to seeing you at Spa-Francorchamps, seeing whether you can make it another podium. But until then, my friend, have a lovely evening and rejoice on a great result.
You too. Thank you very much.
So hearing there from Max Chambers, ladies and gentlemen, from Concord Motorsport. Our final interview for the day, and indeed a brilliant interview to wrap up in the fact that we got to hear his perspective, and to hear the perspective of a slick starter who then had to make that transition to the wet. Qualifying, admitted there, they wanted to put as many laps together as possible to help boil down the water on the circuit, to dry it up, so that way he then go to slicks at the start of the race and feel confident. And it did work out. However, his 9th place starting position, he had more pace out there, but an instant after his first flying lap on the slick tyre in qualifying, completely scuppered any chance he had of being able to put together a better lap. And so, when we did go racing on the slick tyre, he was able to make steady progress. It felt comfortable, but when the rain arrived, he knew it was coming. Everyone did. Well, he tried to come into the pit lane once. It all went very wrong, but thankfully he was able to go back onto the racing circuit and not pick up a pit entry penalty. So he had a bit of a near miss there, and then he came in a second time and got it right that time, went to the wet and made his way back up for the order. He was flying through the order, but there was just one challenge. He started to pick off drivers one after the other, including the likes of Pedro Luis da Silva and Isaac Fairweather, and that challenge was that he came up against a bit of an immovable object, Benjamin Massey, who of course and wanted to try and get the move back on him after coming to the pits for the fuel that he needed, whereas Chambers already gained that fuel by coming into the pits earlier on. But in the end, Max was able to hold on to that third place just about, and he couldn't quite shake off Massey, but he was able to make sure he couldn't get him through, and the sportsmanship shown at the end, very much appreciated by Max Chambers, and that's how he managed to take that third place. So Massey not wanting to take the move unfairly, but what about between the two of them? He doesn't fancy Spa-Francorchamps necessarily as a favourite circuit, but if we see mixed conditions there, he's definitely going to feel as though it could be one where once again he could do very well, and we'll have to hold him to that one. But with that concludes our interviews for this evening, and let's give you a quick recap, ladies and gentlemen, of who exactly we've spoken to. And so, for this round of interviews, we started off in the club class. We spoke to Mark Kent from Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport and heard his perspective on making it 3 wins in a row. We then came to the pro class, hearing from other two big protagonists in that battle for third place right at the very end, Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport, and hearing his story about going through what was a difficult qualifying session and redemption in the race. Then we came to Bruno Keith, We Pay 300 Esports, back in the club class, talking about his joy at going racing in the wet and the fact he hasn't been on the grid for some time, but back once again, and we look forward to seeing him return return at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. And then we made our way to Max Chambers, the other protagonist in that battle for third place, and talking about the fact he got it absolutely right in terms of his race prediction, in terms of the tyre. He just needed to find a way to get into the pit lane after what was a bit of a difficult end to his qualifying session, and he made it all up in the race. Well done to all 4 of our drivers for their brilliant performances today, and we appreciate their time in the interview room, and I'm sure we're going to get plenty more interviews from their drivers as the season goes on. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up. And thank you very much for watching. And if you've enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking to yourself that you want to be on the grid for a SimRacing International series, or you just want to know a little bit more about our community, or everything in between, well, the best thing to do is go join our official Discord. Invite link available at the bottom of the screen. And if you do join today, well, you won't find a more friendlier SimRacing community that is open to individuals from around the globe. Whilst we are based in the United Kingdom, we've got drivers that you've seen today racing from the likes of Canada, America, also from China, from Ireland, all over the world. No doubt about it, and there's a place here on the grid if you're up for some fair and absolutely brilliant sim racing action. And in terms of our series we do have going on currently, well, of course, on Thursdays we do have our premier GT3 Championship in its 12th season at the moment, with its Masters and Superstar splits. You've been tuning in on this Friday to the GTE Championship Season 2, which runs every Friday evening. And if you're up for your Grand Touring endurance machines that are replaced by GT3s, we've got you sorted there. Meanwhile, if you're a bit more of a weekend racer and you love your GT3 racing on weekends, we've got you covered as well, because we do have the UK SimRacing Sunday Showdown series currently in its 18th season, and that continues to go from strength to strength. But you're looking for something far more casual, perhaps you're a rookie looking to dip your toes into sim racing in a league environment, or perhaps you're an established esports professional and just wanting to take it a bit easy and get comfortable with a community that will respect your nature. Of course, you can come to our practice league with 3 free races per week that run on Tuesday, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we'd absolutely be happy to have you, regardless of your skill level, as long as you've got an ability with regards to winning the race fairly and cleanly. Then we'll definitely have you here at SimRacing International. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we also take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, we want to say a big thank you to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, we now turn our attention to what lies beyond round number 5 and into the second half of the season, because we will next week be making our way to round number 6, and we're on Friday the 1st of May, we'll be heading to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the venerable titan of endurance racing on the European continent, and arguably one of the 7 wonders of the motorsporting world when it comes to circuits. And there, with the conditions yet to be confirmed, we could have mixed conditions. We'll have to wait and see. Well, could we see a repeat of Daytona, and could we see absolute madness play out in the Ardennes Forest? Well, we've definitely seen madness today, and with it has served to shake up the standings a little bit. Within the pro class, the win streak of Philip Ansell being disrupted, but still knowing he's got a bit of a comfortable advantage at the very top, with this round becoming his initial drop score, and Wilson Liu taking his first win of the season and definitely holding on to second quite strongly. Meanwhile, in the interclass, well, definitely everything was disturbed and shaken, with Olivier Granier taking his maiden win of the season, but in the end, Mark Calsbear, the championship leader, coming through for another second place, and therefore he maintains the status quo. And in club, well, James Bostock was not on the grid. Gareth Newton took another second place, which will move into the top, but Mark Kent is closing very quickly on the top 3, and therefore could be in with a chance of snatching a lead should he take victory next time out. That's all to play for and to be understood and seen on Friday the 1st of May, so we'll see you then. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning in to the SimRacing International GTE Championship. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. Have a wonderful weekend ahead, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.